Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Wire2Wire Sports Podcast. I am the NFL genius, but as my picks would say, probably not. Gene Walzak, and in my upper left corner, I got Kent State's own, Cleveland's own, College, Cottrell.
What's going on, man?
What's popping, brother?
Hey, it's a bad week for in terms of NFL football for me, but gotta live to see another day.
I mean, it's a bad week in terms of football, period. Ohio State's about to get their butt kicked this Saturday by Notre Dame, and I'm going to just put that out there now.
Oof.
I ain't going to make nobody wait for that one. In the upper right corner, I got Scholastic Shally, Uncle Shally, William Shallcross.
Government name, Jesus.
I want government tonight. How you feeling, brother?
Good. What's going on, boys?
Danny Dempsey already in the chat yelling fins up. He's a Dolphins fan now. I'm just kidding. He's always been a Dolphins fan. He's liking to it. He wrote the apology letter.
Dolphin fans are starting to become like Boston Red Sox and Yankees fans coming out of
Andre, I know your Super Bowl is basically happening right now. Andre is a resident. He's a Falcons fan, Georgia Tech fan, all things Atlanta. And then he hates all things Ohio State, and he hates all things Ohio State. So you say he hates all things Ohio State and he hates all things Ohio State. Yeah, no, it's a fact because you gotta say it twice. So whoever, he's a fan of literally every team. Last week he was cheering for Western Kentucky. Week before that, he's cheering for Indiana and Youngstown State. He's just a hater. It's all right. Falcons, they got 2 wins right now. He's happy. He's on the Desmond Ridder chain. If you ask him, Desmond Ridder's a top 5 quarterback in the league right now. So a little delusional guy, but that's okay. We appreciate you for listening in.
Yo, Desmond Ridder has stunk. Like, what are we talking about? Desmond Ridder has stunk. Am I wrong?
Not wrong, but I mean, I think the offense in whole is a little bit better than I think everybody thought they were going to be, and the defense has played surprisingly well. I didn't think they were going to be 2-0. Did you make that futures bet for the under 6.5?
It's 8.5, and yes, I did.
All right, you're probably all right still then.
I think the wheels fall off this week at Detroit. Just an opinion, but we'll get into it. We're going to start this week with college football, though. College football's got a massive slate. I'm making a new rule, making rules up as we go. I'm making up a new rule. Now, if you did it this week, this will be the last week you're allowed to do it. We all have our 3 games that we prep each week. We are no longer allowed to pick them as part of our pick 'em. Prep games are off pick 'em list. You have to pick off because I don't want to get to our prep games and then you not give a pick for it. We could do it this week, but no longer can make prep picks game picks. Any questions?
I mean, I have no issues with it, but if I got one that I feel strong, like we talked about Colorado, Nebraska, like a couple weeks ago, if I have one that I feel that strongly about, I'm still picking it. I'm just letting you know. I got to let the people know that it's got to be one of the picks because that was your stone cold lead pipe lock, of the year. So, but I'm with you though. I'm okay with that.
All right, I'm just making sure. Cottrell, as always, start us off. And listen, I know the order you should go in, right? You should have an appetite, and then you have the mid, right? It's the break in between the main event. There's one game on this docket out of the 3 that is one I don't really want to talk about. I think it's stupid. But the first one you got to talk about because of how much notoriety it is. And the last one you got to talk about because of how good it is. But I won't tell you the order to go in. I won't. I just strongly suggest which order we should go into.
I think,
Get them right. It's okay.
I'm going to start with Ole Miss at Alabama. That's where we're going to start.
This is like the hors d'oeuvres. This ain't even appetizer. This is hors d'oeuvres.
Ole Miss.
It's the pigs in the blanket. I still like the pigs in the blanket, but it's just not. I'm not getting
pigs in the blanket.
This is the salad. No cheese. They give you a side of small cup of Italian dressing, and that's about it.
All right. Well, let's talk about Ole Miss And Alabama, who's now on there, I don't know if you could say it's their first quarterback, but they tried 2 other ones out last week. Alabama is in an off year, and people just don't want to admit it, right? Like, this college football playoff will have no tide. All you Alabama fans out there, how do y'all feel? I want you to speak up and let me know how you feel about Alabama not even going to be in the playoff discussion this year. Like, by week 10, we won't even be called. Alabama will be an afterthought.
Might be after this week, depending on what happens.
We'll said it before.
Preview us, College Control. Show us how it's done.
So, I mean, you got the Alabama Crimson Tide coming off their tough, hard-fought win against the USF team, University of South Florida. Got to give them their respect. They're coming off a hard-fought win. Now, on the other side of things, Ole Miss is coming in looking to potentially, put the SEC West on notice here, take full control over there. They're undefeated already. Jackson Dart at the helm. And then you got, like Gene said, Jalen Milroe's back under center for the Crimson Tide. I think this game I think it has dud factor around it. I think Alabama's defense has shown that they can come up and play in bigger games, but they're not one of those Georgia defenses. They're not one of the Bama defenses, that we've seen in past years. So they're not going to be able to hold teams necessarily to, 13, 14 points and score a defensive touchdown and win games that way. I got Ole Miss winning this one. I think Jackson Dart goes into Tuscaloosa. He takes care of business because I said it before. I'll say it again. I'm not a believer in Jalen Milroe. I think with Saban having that revolving door at the quarterback position, that shows you how much trust he has in those guys. And, you could talk about Bama's running game. They did look better in that second half against USF. I don't really care. I think Milroe's going to turn the ball over. And I think Jackson Dart, he's looked great so far this season. I think he's going to be throwing darts. So I got Ole Miss winning. I think this is going to be a 27-21 kind of game. Ole Miss has the ball late, and, they ultimately don't give Bama a shot to potentially go on and win the game.
There are a lot of teams in college football that go into Alabama and automatically feel like they're going to lose the football game. I think Ole Miss is one of those teams. I think Alabama wins this one, and I think they cover the spread, the 7.5 in this one. I think Alabama rolls in this one. I think they'll win 31-20. I think Jackson Dart won't score a touchdown in the first half. I think at the end of the first half, it'll be 17-3 Bama. I think the second half will basically be playing catch up. Ole Miss will finally wake up a little bit, try to make it close. I don't think they ever have the ball within one possession in the second half of the game. Give me Alabama. Give me the defense. Give me Jalen Milroe after sitting a week. I feel like Alabama's going to come back home, run the football, play strong defense, and I think that'll be enough to beat Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss is just they're not as good as people are giving them credit to be. I'll take Alabama in this one, 31-20.
I'm going to mix and match a little bit here. I think this game is a very close game. I don't think it's as high scoring as Gene sees it. I think it's a little bit more lower scoring like Cottrell. There'll be nothing.
Wait, the same total.
No, we were 4 points off.
You said 27-21, right?
Yeah, it's 48.
I said 31-20. It's 3-point difference.
Lower. Statement stands.
God. Shelly never friggin' wants to agree with me. He's like, yeah, Gene's wrong. I agree with Cottrell.
That's all I said.
I know.
I said a mixing and matching here.
I'm kidding.
Listen, I mean, there would be nothing that Lane Kiffin would love more to walk into that stadium and win that football game and kind of smear it in Nick Saban's face, a kind of an Alabama down year, and try to walk out of there with a W. Listen, I think Jackson Dart is a far superior quarterback than Jalen Milroe at this point, obviously in their careers. Obviously, Jackson Dart's been in college for about 8 years now, but I think he started to finally figure it out a little bit. He's played not conservative, but he's played within the system this year. Hasn't turned the ball over, and the Ole Miss offense looks pretty good. Alabama's defense is still it's not, kind of like Cottrell said, it's not to the point where it's a dominant, Georgia-like defense or even a normal Alabama defense, but they're good. I mean, Ole Miss isn't going to march the ball up and down the field against that defense. I just don't know what Alabama's going to look like offensively. I think Jalen Milroe is going to be scared to death to make a mistake, knowing he's on the thinnest ice you could possibly be on with an angry Nick Saban already. I don't know what his confidence factor is going to look like. Like you said, he got benched, only got put back in because the other two dudes that came in after him looked even worse. It's not like Nick Saban's going back to him because he thinks he's going to look good or, I don't believe he made up that much ground or is going to look that much better, after 1 week of practice. So I think everything, in your psyche is kind of like Gene said. I think it wants to lead you to believe that Alabama goes home, figures it out, Saban coaches them up, and then they come out with a victory. I think Alabama pulls it out somehow. I'll go 23-20 Alabama over Ole Miss. But I think Ole Miss definitely covers. And I do think Ole Miss probably has a shot to maybe win the football game.
So I want to go to the comments real quick. My man Mo in the chat said, let's go Wire to Wire Sports Podcast, a.k.a. the Three Wise Men. Maybe two wise men. I'm not wise right now, man. 1-5 in NFL. I'm not feeling it. Mel said the dynasty is dead. And he also said Lane Kiffin is the type to kick Saban while he's down. Ole Miss by 17.
Oh, he's 100% right about the middle comment. I am not going to say the dynasty's dead. This is if you want to acknowledge the truth of the situation, they are in a transition year. They have young receivers, they have young quarterbacks. The defense isn't young, even though it's probably playing a little bit above their heads right now. This team will be very, very good next year and the year after. So I'm not buying any. I'm starting to hear it a lot too. I don't think this is the end of the Saban era, blah, blah, blah. Nope, not doing that. It's a weird recruiting cycle that they got stuck in with guys coming in, leaving early, so forth and so on. If you think Nick Saban is not going to win a national championship or at least compete for one, I would say you're dead wrong. Lane Kiffin is absolutely the jerk-off that wants to come in and kick the guy when he's down on the ground trying to pick up his teeth. That is Lane Kiffin to a T. And what was the third thing? Oh, they're not winning. I don't think they're winning by 17. Wouldn't shock me, wouldn't knock me over, but I don't think that's likely either.
I will say, Gene, you said one thing that I somewhat disagree with, at least with this year. Normally, I do think teams going to Tuscaloosa with the mindset, and it may not be on the forefront of their brain, but deep down they really know we're not winning this football game. I think in years past, I would 100% agree with you. I think this year, especially the way Alabama has looked, you've seen the chinks in their armor. Like if I'm Lane Kiffin, all I got to do is throw on that USF tape and say, hey, is this USF team that much better than us? You can't do the same thing that they did. I get it. USF was home, but they made them go through two different quarterbacks and made them all look pedestrian. You saw what Texas did going into Tuscaloosa. I'm not saying Ole Miss is Texas-esque. I'm not saying Jackson Dart is as good as Quinn Ewers, but I don't think there is that fear factor with other teams going to Alabama this year, knowing how Alabama has looked so far throughout this season.
So I got to give John Suggs all the credit in the world. My man is in here giving upsets after upsets every week. I love him, bro. I appreciate all the comments. So far he's got Clemson over FSU. He's got UCLA over Utah. He's got UT San Antonio over Tennessee. And he's also got Nick Saban retiring. My man is bold take after bold take, and I promise you this. If one of those hit, he's going to be in the chat. I told you that was going to happen. My man, I get it, but I think you got a shot at one of them. I don't know which one, but I think you got one of them. I love John. John, I love it. I love it. Keep up the comments. But, I guess we'll find out this week. I don't think Alabama is dead. I don't think Nick Saban's close to retiring. I think he's got it made in Alabama, if I'm being honest with you. But, I think that Nick Saban will be there for a while, and I think they'll be good again soon. But
I can see him if he wins one in the next 2 to 3 years, then I think there's a legit shot of him kind of walking off into the sunset type deal. But I think if Alabama goes 10-2 this year, 9-3, people think the sky is falling, and I don't think he's going to walk away. I just don't see Nick Saban going out like that.
I think the one thing Nick Saban needs to realize, and I think he's starting to realize it, he realized it with Mac Jones and Bryce Young, that you need a quarterback in college football to be legit now. It's like the NFL at this point. Like, you know how many years he won in Alabama having no quarterback play?
McCarron.
AJ McCarron.
Yeah.
Ken Dorsey. That was Miami. I think about the days of the bad quarterback play that you win because the team is just better, and their days are over. They're no longer a thing. But.
Yeah, I mean, Mac was a good college quarterback. I mean, he's kind of just progressed into, he's going to be in middle of the road in the NFL.
My point being is Mac and Bryce are fine. I'm talking about you can't win with Jalen Milrose anymore.
Your first round talent, second round talent. You need those kind of guys.
Yeah, agreed.
Or if you don't get those kind of guys, you need a guy that's at least going to.
Alabama was winning with undrafted players.
Yeah.
AJ McCarron went in the 6th round.
Yeah.
Yeah, he probably really should have been drafted. Yeah, I mean, because if not, you have to have like a team like Georgia had the last 2 years. And I mean, Stetson Bennett's probably somewhere in between a good quarterback and
Well, you can also win with a 27-year-old college quarterback.
True.
Yo, I swear to God, bro, I am so shocked. Like, I seen Keaton Slovis is still on a college football program. Like, how many years of eligibility do these kids have?
Bro, COVID.
COVID was only supposed to be 1 year though.
But
that gave them a free year though. Like, if you redshirted, you had COVID, and then if you had a medical issue, that's 3 years right there that you just can pile.
It's crazy. It's crazy. You got guys playing in their 6th or 7th year right now, but then you have the Walker situation, and that kid can't get cleared to play. It's just nuts. The NCAA there's no consistency. I don't get me started on it. I don't feel like ranting right now about it.
I just think it's funny. Hey, by the way, you took a trip out to Ann Arbor, Michigan this past week. How did that go?
It was great. We had a great time. I mean, we had great seats to the game. Michigan defense showed up. Michigan offense kind of sleptwalked through the game. I think Blake Corum looked pretty good. JJ did not have a good game at all. Looked a little bit off. Kind of like he was trying to force it too much. Threw 2 really bad interceptions. Crowd was great. First night game with the new lights. The hype video was awesome. They got James Earl Jones to do it, so it was pretty cool. I mean, I love it out there, man. I mean, it's a great college campus. I'm biased, but I've been to other ones, and I think it's just a little bit different there. But it's had a great time. Can't complain at all. We had great weather. I mean, Saturday was 77 and sunny, no humidity. It was just everything worked out great. Couldn't have asked for a better trip.
Okay, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I will say this: they were starting to scare me for a little while. JJ McCarthy did not look good, but hey, you guys won a football game.
You can play like that and not drop in the ratings if you're Michigan. So, just one of those things.
Oh man,
bro, I dude, you're one of 6 teams that cannot complain about that.
Sure, I can.
Oh God, you can. It's a horrible argument.
You saw Florida State. They laid an egg against Boston College, and
Florida State was all right. Here's the difference. Florida State was in legit danger of losing that football game.
I'm not comparing it to you guys. I'm not comparing
Michigan
that to you guys.
was never in danger of losing that game. They didn't look great. They didn't look like a team that should be ranked 2 in the country and have first place votes. I'll freely admit that. They were never in danger of losing that football game. Florida State could have lost. Texas could have lost.
100%. 100%. I'm just saying, we won a game by 20 and then 28, and we dropped 2 slots in the poll. And, that's all. That's all I'm saying. Just making sure everybody saw it.
You will have your opportunity very soon to make up for all of it.
I get it.
You have the opportunity Saturday.
I get it. I 100% get it. I'm just saying, all things aren't looking equal right now with the AP. That's all.
Oh my God!
I just think Ohio. It's funny with Ohio.
It's one of legit 10 programs that can't complain about that. And I'm not even saying it's not even a logical like topic, because it definitely is. Like we see it with Notre Dame every year. Like Florida should be ranked. Like Tennessee, like
we're not talking about the bigger picture here. I'm just talking about through 3 weeks. That's all I'm saying.
I will say this though, like let's not act like we won a game by 28. Like you guys played Youngstown State. Like we didn't. You basically played North American.
You do realize that Michigan played Bowling Green. Like we dropped the spot. We dropped the spot.
Youngstown State's not even freaking. They're not even Division I. That's Gene's point. You literally just proved it.
Okay, so we won that game by 28. You guys struggled with Bowling Green, who's a MAC school. You know, not even
Bowling Green to Youngstown State play. Who wins?
Bowling Green by 14.
There you go.
I don't want to stick up for Michigan either. Stop making me do that.
Okay, so Michigan. Okay, so again, all things equal here, they won by less points, and you saw the first half. We were never in danger. There was never a scare with Youngstown State. There was never any of that. I get it. You know, the game wasn't a blowout.
I didn't say that you should have dropped either.
Okay.
I'm just saying it happened, though. It happened.
Man, you guys, man, that fan base is y'all starting to turn a little bit.
It's not.
Y'all getting little things starting to bother you guys all of a sudden.
I'm here for the Ohio State Michigan hate.
All things aren't equal. Texas had laid an egg against Wyoming, and you see them move up in the polls.
All right. Well, by your own words, and I'm not a Texas football fan. I kind of am. They're my third team now. I have 3 of them. But by your own words, they still won by 21 points, right? Isn't that how that works?
They did, but hey, if all things are equal, they should have dropped the
spot. You beat Youngstown State by 28, and they beat Wyoming by 21. I think that their win's better.
Okay, what about 55 against Western Kentucky?
We're talking about the Hilltoppers?
Yeah.
All right, I'm done.
The house that Bailey Zappi built.
Oh man,
exactly.
I mean, 3 years ago, man, all you guys were like, "Oh, we're gonna stomp everybody, go to college football playoff." Now, you guys starting to complain about a lot of stuff.
Quality wins. Let's move on to game 2. Let's move on to game 2, but we can't move on to game 2 without speaking about their previous week game. Colorado game 2, right? Control. That's where we're going. Colorado game 2, right? Okay.
Colorado, Oregon.
Colorado is traveling to Oregon this week. No Travis Hunter. Got to talk about the Colorado State game. And look, I wrote my apology letter to Prime, Coach Prime. I give Colorado all the credit in the world. But am I the only one that thinks it's kind of weird that they stormed the field, beating Colorado State at home when they were 21-point favorites? Like, is that not weird to you? Like,
they're not used to it. They don't have any decorum there in Boulder. You know, they don't know what it's like to win football games. They won 1 last year. So you beat a rival team. You don't know what to do. But yes, it is weird though, to answer your question. Very weird, and you shouldn't do it.
Bro, we got Freddie. Someone tag Freddie in the chat. Freddie's in the chat, right? Talking about, I believe in Colorado. Like,
is Freddie a Buffalo fan now?
I guess he's a Coach Prime guy.
Hey,
he's like, I believe, like when they beat a team that they were favored to beat by 22 points. I don't understand and I love what Coach Prime's doing in Colorado. I do. I don't like what he did, the Jackson State move. I talked about that, but I'm over it. I've wrote my apology letter. I'm on board, right? I love the kids he's got with Shador and Travis Hunter and Shiloh, whatever. I'm good. I just think it's a little bit awkward to like, hey, we barely beat a team that we were favored to beat by 22 points. And we're like miracles happen. Like, what are we doing? This is not what happened.
Yeah.
Someone tag Freddie's ass.
Yeah, that wasn't like a top 5 team in there. That was, Colorado was a 21-point underdog, and
if they beat USC next week,
fine.
Burn the field.
Just burn the field down. I don't care. You can't be a 21-point favorite and rush the field like you guys just beat, the number 1 team in the country. Like that. That's not okay. It kind of goes to Cottrell's point that they're just not used to it because they've been so bad for the last 10 to 15 years. If you want to talk about that, I agree with you. I brought that up to you last night at the field. But on top of that, nobody nobody's really like, talking about the gaffe of the officials in overtime either. How they didn't switch the order of possession in the second overtime.
Oh, I'd seen that.
I saw that and I was like, did I miss a rule change? Like, did they change that at some point?
Thought the same thing. I was sitting there Googling. I was like, nah, they're just going to mess this up at home. Like, I was like, all right, whatever.
I also thought it was kind of awkward that Colorado State, now granted, one of them was one of the 3 penalties that were called on them on that last drive was 100%. But, dude, the other 2 were very ticky-tack to be called. On the last drive of overtime, I don't know. I feel like the Colorado story's got legs to it, right? Valentino Shevchenko makes a comment about losing a fight or being in a draw at a fight because it was Mexican Pride Day, National Day. I'm making a comment saying the officials were a little bit skimpy down the stretch versus Colorado State. Am I wrong?
You're definitely not wrong. And I don't want to stick up for the officials here because I'm 100% with you. I will say though, I think that game was starting to get, not even starting to get, by overtime it was out of hand. So I do think they were calling it a lot tighter than they should have been just because of what happened previously. But that doesn't give them an excuse to, take the game away from the players, though.
I will say this: the targeting call was right. I think it was spot on a targeting call. I forget that kid's name. He's an absolute beast. He's the best player on Colorado State's defense.
You could see they just let it out as soon as he left.
But he's just got to be smarter.
Yeah, I mean, it's the damn. I mean, Shedor's helmet almost spun around his head. I mean, if you want to go full tinfoil hat here, I mean, screwing Colorado State out of that game doesn't move the needle for anything anywhere. Colorado loses that game, it definitely takes a lot of steam out of this weekend and potentially next weekend. They got what they wanted. I don't think anybody thought Colorado was going to roll in this game 3-0, and here they are. And Colorado, Oregon. I mean, if it wasn't all right, I mean, we're out of roses, Kurtrell. Like, there's none left. Like, we picked them all the time in rose season. It's too late in the season. There's none left.
So we got to talk about the Travis Hunter hit before we get. He brought it up. John Suggs brought it up. Let me guess. The next question was the hit. Was it a fair hit? Okay, so John, it's not a fair hit, right? It was a cheap shot. It was a dirty hit. It was late. And you said, would we be asking if it was Boise State versus Northwestern? Well, the question I would ask you, and I would spin this around and say, I don't care what game it is. If one of the Heisman finalists or candidates is knocked out of college football for 3 to 4 weeks because of a dirty hit. I don't care if it's UConn versus Memphis. It don't matter. If they have a Heisman candidate like Travis Hunter is, the most electrifying man in sports entertainment right now. Whoa. Yeah, I don't care. We're doing that. Yes, it was a bad hit. It was dirty. Now I will say this. Henry Blackburn getting death threats is a little ridiculous, right? I don't think that and once again, got to credit Coach Prime. Went out there to the kid's defense, said it's football. Got to credit Travis Hunter, said it's a football play. It is what it is. I think that it was dirty. I think the fact that he got a lacerated kidney made it where it was way worse, right? Like, if he comes back in the game and it's just a 15-yard penalty, no one's talking about this. Like, it wasn't, like, so egregious to the point where, like, it was like a guy, like Ndamukong Suh when he stomped on the guy's head, or Albert Hainsworth. Like, it wasn't that egregious. It was a bad hit. It was dirty.
It's a bad hit. It was late. The ball was already gone. But I agree with you to the point where I think he meant to hit him, and I don't think there was ever any – like you said, I don't think there was any malice or like intent to like drive him through the bench and like try to like chop him in half or something like that. And I agree with you. I agree with you 100% on your first point. I don't care who it is. Like, it doesn't change the fact of the hit. It was a late hit. It was a penalty. It was a dirty hit. I don't care if it's the 4th string receiver from Northwestern. Obviously, he's going to get.
He got thrown out of the game. If I'm being honest with you,
what'd you say?
I think he should have got thrown out of the game.
100%.
I think They didn't
You throwing
change.
kids out for targeting that I don't think is even targeting in NCAA football. This was way worse than what 90% of targeting is in college football, in my opinion.
That's
I agree with that.
100% what I was going to say. And I think that the biggest part is knowing what was being said. And I know you can't necessarily go into games with, this preconceived notion and things like that. But the refs were out there pregame. They saw the trash talk going back and forth. They saw the antics that were going on the field. Like in that moment, that, hey, tensions are flaring. I think you have to throw the kid out to really just set the precedent, because what if a Colorado player would have retaliated on the other side of the ball? Colorado State, they threw a deep ball and Shiloh's just, coming across and knocks a kid out and he gets hurt, even worse than what Travis did. I think you have to really set that precedent there, especially in a game like this where you already know tensions are high and, these players are clearly playing way too emotional. Thought it was late, thought it was dirty, thought he should have got ejected for it. But I do want to give credit to Prime for, coming out and just, really taking the high road, saying it wasn't, that dirty and, it was a football play, things like that. Cause I don't think he really meant that, but he went out there and said it to his defense. And the death threats are just dumb things that college kids are doing. His phone number got leaked, his address got leaked. That's just dumb.
Last point I'll make on this, and on the game, not on the hit. Jay Norvell got that team ready. Colorado State was ready for that game, and I got to give them all the credit in the world. They showed up with that game with a chip on their shoulder. They were ready to go. Got to give them credit. Got to give Jay Norvell credit, coach Colorado State. I got to give them all the credit in the world. They played a hell of a football game. Stephen Chambers said, yes, it was dirty, but he and his family don't deserve death threats. We completely 100%. Agree with you. And then John Suggs still defending it. But on side note, most players on defense or even some head coaches want to make the other team feel the fear. I agree. Okay, what if it was not a late hit? Would people still be talking? I mean, it was a late hit. Like, what if the queen had balls? She'd be the king.
I feel like John just saw that Florida Gators documentary. Major Wright coming across the field, knocking out that Oklahoma player. People aren't still talking about it being a dirty hit because it wasn't dirty. It was a play on the ball, it knocked the guy out, whatever. In this situation, it was 3-4 seconds after when he should have got hit and ultimately, lacerated his kidney. I think if Travis was making a play on the ball and his kidney got lacerated, I think we're talking about it because it sucks that, a guy with Travis Hunter's magnitude and his stardom is going to be out the game, but we're not talking about it being dirty. We're just talking about it being unfortunate.
He's a damn control. You're 100% right. All this to talk about this, and I don't know if either one of you guys will disagree with me. Oregon by 35. I think Oregon absolutely destroys Colorado this week. I don't think it's a football game. I think Bo Nix, especially Bo Nix at home in Oregon's going to destroy them. And listen, if you have Travis Hunter there, the spread's probably not 21. It's probably 10 or 12 or
no.
What do you think it is?
It's probably 18 if he's playing.
I disagree. I think it's 10 or 12.
No,
I think we're the best
player in the world is going to be non-quarterback is going to be worth 12 points in a spread.
He's two players.
He's two players.
Yeah.
I agree.
Non-quarterback matters.
I say I'm with Eugene. I thought the spread would have been. I think it would have been 8.5.
Oh, that's even more. I said 9 points, 21-12. But hey, listen. At the end of the day, I think that Oregon beats them by 35. I don't think the game's close. But
this is going to be a little bit different for Colorado in that, now teams are gearing up for them. They're going into a place that is not easy to play. Autzen Stadium is very, very loud. Very good student section, great fan base up there in Oregon. Don't know what the weather's looking like right now. But I don't think it's going to factor in. The only thing would be rain, but it's a different psyche now. Like you're going up there without debatably your best player, and you're going to get teams coming out trying to destroy you now. Like it's different. Where beginning of the year, people were like, "Oh, like it's a great story with Deion, so forth and so on." Like now you're going to get everybody's best shot every week.
Oh, and Oregon's not going to slow down because it's going to be a quality win for them. It's a ranked opponent.
Correct.
No, by the way, I just want to give Snowman, my man Snow. If you don't know, our intro was made by Snow for absolutely free because he's a great guy. So just wanted to shout Snow out. He said, my first Wednesday in forever. I'm not working. We love you, brother. Appreciate every time you stop by.
But yeah, I mean, they're I mean, you're 100% right. Like if Oregon can hang 52, 59, 63 on them, they're going to. It's a conference game. It's a ranked win. And Oregon has college football playoff aspirations. So my main concern with all this is exactly what it's been. I think Deion's handled it perfectly so far. You know, they've gotten very excited about wins, and some of the kids have said certain things, and Deion's kind of walked it back, and you know. And try to keep them level-headed. I just, you know, if they do go up there Saturday and lose and it's ugly, I just hope they don't do anything or nobody says anything stupid to tarnish what they've accomplished so far this year.
Completely.
I think Deion's done a really good job so far of that. You know, so I hope they lose. If they do lose, I hope they lose graciously, and you know, I hope we prolong from here because I mean it's you know you can say whatever you want to say with everything else. I mean they have been the absolute number one story in college football for the first month of the season. So
the most watched college football game by far, wasn't it? This past week it was a 10:00 game
on ESPN. Yes.
Okay. So I think the final score of the game is 56-20, Oregon. That's my pick. Cottrell?
So I'm going to slightly disagree with you guys. I think Colorado is actually going to keep this game somewhat close. And I think there's going to be a point in the second half, third quarter, I don't want to get too crazy, where Colorado is actually up. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. I just don't think Colorado has anybody defensively that can slow down what Oregon is going to run. I think they're going to run by those Colorado defenders. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. I got Oregon winning. I think it's going to be 48-38.
Shot Sucks is on fire. Most watched because they had like 10 rappers and Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Okay. Even Chambers got Colorado covering. Danny Dempsey's got Colorado covering.
I will go. I think Oregon comes out fast. I mean, if they score in their first couple possessions, I think it puts the pressure on Colorado that they have to score. I don't want to say it gets them out of their comfort zone, but if they can't stop Oregon at all defensively with running the ball, they're going to start running their play action game after that, kind of like Cottrell said. I think there's going to be people running by people all over the field. I'll go Oregon 52, Colorado 17.
Oh.
All right. Well, Cottrell could be right. It might be a super dog this week, but I don't want to give anything away. We got to get into the main event of the evening. The Ohio State Buckeyes playing against the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. It was a terrible Irish impression. Let's get started. Cottrell, I will allow you to go first or last here. What would you prefer?
I gotta go last.
I get it. I understand. I will start because I don't want Michigan hate to bleed through here. I got to be objective. Notre Dame's going to win the football game. Sam Hartman is going to douse up that Ohio State defense, and Kyle McCord is just not ready for this prime time Notre Dame defense. I got Notre Dame winning this one 31-23. Ohio State has the ball down 8 with the game on the line. McCord throws a pick at the 20-yard line. I like Notre Dame in this one. I think it'll be 31-23. I think Hartman's better than McCord. Shally, it's on you, brother.
I agree that I think Hartman is better than McCord. I think the rest of the Buckeyes are better than Notre Dame. I think they're going to lean on those receivers. I think they're going to get McCord in a rhythm early, not make him sit back there and probably try to throw anything crazy, get him a couple completions, get him in rhythm, get his timing down, let him calm down. I think you get a big dose of Travion Henderson this weekend. And I think Ohio State lets that defense, make some plays for them. I think Ohio State's defense as a unit is definitely better than Notre Dame's. I don't think Notre Dame's been tested yet. And I think that is best team they've played is Notre Dame. And I'll fully, agree with you. I think Sam Hartman's looked incredible. I think he's everything that Notre Dame was hoping he was going to be. I think they're playing a different animal. I think as long as Ohio State can put points up and not have to rely on McCord to throw the ball 50 times, I think they're in good shape. I will go Ohio State 35, Notre Dame 31.
Okay, so I, of course, am picking Ohio State to win this football game, not just because I'm a fan, but just because I think they're the better team. Again, I'm going to agree with my other two co-hosts here with Bill and Gene. I do think Sam Hartman is the better quarterback, especially at this point. He had seasons under his belt already, and he came into Notre Dame ready to rock and roll. Kyle McCord definitely struggled, first two games, and he finally put together a couple things against the Western Kentucky team, which is, nothing to write home about. But I do think there is something about making those connections with those players. And I think Ryan Day and company are going to try and make it easier for, Emeka Egbuka and Marvin Harrison. All you got to do is put the ball in their hands. You don't have to, thread the needle. Those guys are going to find open space. So I think Ryan Day is going to do a great job. And Bill, you mentioned it for me. I think Travion Henderson is going to be the X factor in this game. I think Ohio State offensive line, they finally started to look a little bit better. I think they're going to be able to run the football, and that's going to make the job easier on Kyle McCord. I like this game ending up 31-21 Ohio State.
So I think Audric Estime will run for more yards than Travion Henderson in this football game. I think he's got like 600 yards on the season already. He's a big back and he's elusive. I love him to run wild. They're going to drop coverage to stop Sam Hartman, and I think Audric Estime goes wild.
Bill, you know something else that's funny here. We talk about all the teams that Ohio State has played so far, but you didn't hear any mention of Gene talking about Sam Hartman looking great against Navy, or you didn't hear him talking about Middle Tennessee State or whoever else they played so far this season.
First of all, they played NC State, who's better than anybody on your damn record so far. So I don't want to hear that, okay?
I mean, I guess, are they? Indiana, NC State right now? I mean,
I take NC State over Indiana all day.
Normally,
NC State's better than Indiana.
Come on, bro.
Where is NC State going to finish in the ACC?
Fourth, fifth?
Where's Indiana going to finish in the Big Ten?
Very, very bad. But they're going to be neck and neck, I think, in their respective conferences is my point.
I just really like this kid, Estime. I really do.
I like Estime as well. Listen,
I 21. That was a good guess. I had him at 600. I was close.
Yeah,
they got me with the exact numbers. Look at these guys quoting me. 4 games, the guy's at 521 yards. It's not bad.
Tennessee State. You're talking about FCS teams. Tennessee State's one of those teams. You knock Ohio State for. You don't talk about a Notre Dame.
I'm just saying. I think that Sam Hartman and the quarterback is just better at Notre Dame. They're home. A lot of role players play better at home than they do on the road. I watched a very similar Notre Dame team hold Ohio State down for a good portion last year in Ohio State. They get their revenge this year at home. Now, granted, Ohio State's going to get their opportunity to still make the college football playoff even after losing this game. I just think Kyle McCord has to still develop, and I think they're walking into a bad environment. I think the spread tells you everything you need to know about this football game. It's only a 3-point spread. Be careful.
Look, see, if you would have said all that at first, though, I wouldn't even be getting on you. But you talked about McCord and Ohio State's lack of schedule.
Everything I've said, I stand on. I think Sam Hartman is a lot better than Kyle McCord. I think Estime is going to run for more yards than Travion Henderson. I think the Notre Dame defense at home and those role players are going to play better than Ohio State's defense is going to play this week. I think that Notre Dame will finish behind Ohio State at the end of the season. But right now, I think Notre Dame's the better football team.
Notre Dame wins this game. I don't know where they lose.
They still got Clemson and they
Don't
got
they play USC
Duke
still?
and USC.
Yeah, I was
USC
literally just going to
and
say they're. I mean, they
Clemson.
might not beat
And
USC.
Duke is so underrated, man. Watch them play. If you haven't watched them play yet, watch them play. They are so underrated right now.
Duke gets. I mean,
Oh, why am I becoming a college football nut?
Three teams is enough for you. You can't add another team. If you want to add another team, you got to drop somebody else.
No. I'm not a Duke fan. I
You
have.
gotta go
All right, so
FCS or
first of all,
something.
this is the way it is, right? Let me just explain my team.
Yes.
There's no need for that, Control.
You got to go D2.
I might have to cut Georgia out. That might be the team I cut out.
Oh, bro, you can't cut Georgia.
Well, listen to me. Hear me out.
Georgia's like Christian McCaffrey in fantasy football. He's undroppable. He's on the undroppable.
No, but follow,
you
but
cannot
follow me.
cut Georgia.
I don't want the front runner because you guys know this, but not a lot of people do. They hear that I root for Georgia and they're like, "Oh, you front runner." But like, what happened was Georgia made me look really good. I rooted for him all year. I made a bold prediction. It came true. Then my favorite player in college football went to the Eagles. And then the Eagles started drafting all the Georgia Bulldogs. So it became like, how can I not like this team? But at this point, they're all drafted already. I'm not in love with the players that are there now. And my new favorite player in college football is Quinn Ewers. So now, like, if I had to pick, I'm rooting for Texas. Texas plays Georgia in the Natty this year. I picked Texas to win it all this year. They're going to make me look good. So I got to go Texas.
Oh, Gene, I am so glad you brought that up, Gene, because
Okay.
you thought you were slick. You almost pulled a fast one on us.
Okay.
And I got to call you out on it.
I don't mind.
You waited until Texas. You were calling Texas beating Bama, and I'm with you on that. But you waited until after the game to tell us that you were picking Texas to win the Natty.
You're right.
They lose that game against Bama. That's not what you would have came on there.
But I didn't give a Natty winner. Do you remember?
I know that's why you did it though. You were
You're
worried about
100%
that
right.
game.
I cheated.
know, but I'm calling you out on it.
Listen to me. Shally knows this because he plays softball with me. I'm Alex Elmore knows this. Snowman knows this. Anybody in the chat that's ever competed with me knows this. If I can find an advantage, I will use the advantage. Shally, I'm going to ask you a question. I know you're looking for your cat. I don't know what you're doing. But I'm going to ask you a question. Has anybody in the entire league had more people called out for like leaving the base early or like not tagging up in time or hitting the wrong bag at first base? Like, do I not use the rules to my advantage?
You do. You 100%.
That's who I am. That's who I am. No, like Jory, I don't switch teams. I still have the same rankings. Jory. I don't switch. Freddie switches teams. He disowned the LA Rams. He's done with them.
Now
He's a Giants fan now. I don't switch. I add. It's better that way. You just add them. I don't know. This Lauren is just typing letters in here. I think this is spam. I'm gonna have to block this Lauren. Sorry, Lauren. We're blocking you. You're done. You're gone. All right. Put in a timeout. All right, but
Duke is going to get Notre Dame at a good time, so it'll be very interesting to see what happens with that. They go so if they beat Ohio State this week, they go to Duke next week. Then they have a crap game. Then they have USC at home, something else, and then they go to Clemson. If they get through all that, then
Brandon, we're going to talk about that right now. Let's
talk about it.
All right, before we go to pick 'em. Is there any other thing you want to look out for this week? First of all, if you want more in-depth college football action, I'm going to just say this right now. If you're not watching Coast to Coast on Saturday morning, you are missing out. This is not just good college football talk. This is elite college football talk Saturday morning with Black Elmore and these two gentlemen above me. These college football. They're like not even. I would call them like post grads. They're not post grads. They have master's degrees. They have postgraduate degrees. They're doctorates in college football.
Savants.
So if you're not listening, if you want more in-depth college football in 2 hours, of commercial-free college football Saturday morning. You need to listen to Coast to Coast. But is there any other games that you want to bring up here, or do you want to continue to tease? We don't have to break them down, just something you're looking out for this week. I know you have B on the lookout for on Saturday, but is there anything else you want to bring up there? I want to bring one up. That's why.
I got two of my pick 'em. So
Clemson gives Florida State everything they can handle. I'm not confident enough to pick it, but I'm going to tell you right now, that game is going to be a field goal game one way or the other. It'll be a walk-off field goal. I'm calling that now. That'll be the game of the week to watch. Clemson, Florida State.
I'm curious to see. I'm curious to watch the Iowa Penn State game. I think that spread's a little high for me, but it is in Happy Valley. It is going to be the whiteout game, but Penn State looked very underwhelming in certain aspects of the game last week. I think that's going to be their first real test. So I'm curious to see how they respond at home.
Bold prediction, and I don't think it's one of my picks. Let me just double check. I don't know. I make picks, and here we go. Let me just make sure it's not one of my picks. It is not. That's okay. Bold prediction. Penn State blows Iowa out of the building. I think their defense is going to make Cade McNamara look like Cade Mac and Cheese. You're going to cut him up, carve him up. Penn State's defense is elite. And I think they put themselves on the map this week. Control? What game you're looking for? Or are you going to hold it to Coast to Coast?
You guys gave me Clemson versus Florida State. You guys also gave me Iowa at Penn State. Both those games are in my pick 'em, so I can hold on for a second.
All right.
I think if the other really good, intriguing one to me is Oregon State at Washington State. I think that has the potential to be a very, very good football game.
I love that game. DJU is looking great. I don't know. Somebody called Oregon State as a sleeper. Where's that guy at? By the way, throw up the standings, Cottrell, because I called it this year, and I'm telling you again, I'm coming for you in college football. Now, in the NFL, you guys might kick my ass because I'm 1-5. I don't think I've ever been 1-5 in the NFL to start a season. I hit 70% 2 straight years and 60% a third year. Last year, I finished in the 50s, but I was above 500. I've never started a year 1-5. I'm like blown away. But college football, win-loss record, I'm only one behind. But the super dog record, there's a new sheriff in town. Shally might be percentage-wise better. I don't know. It's close.
I'm doing math now.
Don't make me do math. Look at this. We're going to talk about the NFL shortly. If you have your NFL friends, tag them. We got segments for you, overreaction, underreaction coming, but we got to get in the college football pick 'em. Cottrell, you being the guy, pick the order.
All right, so it's been going well for me, going first. So I'm gonna stick with it going first. Gene, we'll stay consistent with you going second, and we can let Bill round us out here.
So when did this rule change? By the way,
what rule change?
Before it was always whoever had the best record got to pick.
Well, Cottrell won last year. So you guys have the same record. So I'm letting Cottrell pick until you overtake him or I overtake him.
All right.
Is that wrong? Am I wrong?
All right.
And by the way, if I was you, Shally, I'm just in a relay race. What leg is the most important, Shally?
Well, I can just tell you this. If I'm running the anchor leg of any relay race, that team's going to fucking lose. I'm telling you that right now.
Golf team. What if you're the golf anchor?
That's different.
See, that's what I mean.
You said race, though.
Oh, you're right.
And if me and you were on the same relay team,
we're losing.
Not good. Not
God,
good.
dude, I'm a lot faster than I look. No, I'm not.
Metal aspirations are not looking good.
All right. So let's get it started. I'll be the rose in between two thorns.
All right. So my first pick, I have Texas Hook'em Horns minus 15 at Baylor. I think they're just a much better football team. I think Quinn Ewers is going to go in the Waco and he's going to take care of business. I don't think Baylor has anything for those Texas Longhorns. And the one thing about Texas is that you saw it last week. They could sleepwalk for 3.5 quarters, but when they want to, they could flip a switch, throw up 21 points, quick, fast, and in a hurry. And now you're down 21 and the game's essentially over. So I think Texas, they take care of business against Baylor. Easy 15 points to cover. Second game. Think this is my sexiest pick of the week. Gene kind of talked about it earlier. I'm going all in. I got Clemson plus 2.5 against Florida State. I think they take care of business. I think Clemson wins that football game. I haven't loved what I saw out of that Clemson football team at all so far this year. I think they've looked awful in games at times. But I think this is a game in conference where essentially Clemson's season it's not hanging on by a thread here. It is on life support. They are not breathing on their own at this point. And I think this is a game where they can, if they find a way to win it, they can get back in the radar and they can really get back in the mix. So I think Dabo is going to have those guys ready to go. Jordan Travis is not 100% in this one. I think that Clemson D-line is going to get after Florida State. And I think Clemson finds a way to win at home. Other game, love it this week. Bill, you talked about the spread in that Iowa-Penn State game. I'm not even concerned with the spread. Give me the over in that one. I know Iowa has good defense. I know Penn State's defense is elite. I think that's going to be a track meet. I think you're going to see Drew Aller in that Penn State offense rebound from what they showcased last week. I think you're going to see it. There's going to be a chance where Penn State scores 30-plus points on their own in that one. I do think, Iowa is going to give them somewhat of a fight. They do have Kate McNamara. I think he's going to be able to move the ball downfield on that Penn State team. It's not going to be enough. I like Penn State 2 possessions in that one. I think they win by, maybe 14, 17 points, but I like the over 40 and a half. Then my super dog pick of the week, talked about them earlier. I like Colorado going back to the Buffalo Well to cover 21 points at Oregon. I think they're really counting out this week. No one's really picking them to win. I'm not saying that they're just this, Cinderella underdog, but without Travis Hunter, I think everyone is on that Oregon side in this one. I think Prime will have those guys ready to go. Offensively, they're going to put numbers up. Defensively, they just won't be able to shut down that Oregon offense. But I like them to keep that game close and to pick up some super dog points in that one.
Before I go, I want to highlight some picks that came through in the chat. Bunch of comments. Appreciate you guys. Adam Hurley says, is anyone taking Colorado to pull off the upset? He said he'll take Colorado. People don't realize they have a big play defense. My man, Timmy Todd, what up, though? He's always in the chat. What up, though? Appreciate you, brother. We got John Suggs asking what if it was a large milkshake race? I'm not good with milkshakes either. I'm going to be honest with you. Texas will beat Baylor. Stephen Chambers picking Florida State and picking Penn State. He also says picking Oregon. So I'll give you my 3 picks. I'm ready. Brandon said something in the chat earlier, and Shally advised me against this last night. Michigan is 0-3 against the spread this year. Well, that changes this weekend when they play Rutgers. Somebody's going to be back on the sideline, and that somebody is Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh and Michigan Wolverines, minus 24.5 over Rutgers. They beat them by 40. Book it. It's the easiest play of the week. Michigan by 40. They're going to run all over them. They're going to rebound after last week. They've got their general back in town. My second play, it's a weird one, but I like it. Over 63, Georgia State and Coastal Carolina. Coastal Carolina can score with anybody. They're going to score. Georgia State's got a nice little quarterback on them. I'm not going to lie to you. This game's going to get way over 60. I think it's in the 80s. Give me the over 63 in Georgia State and Coastal Carolina. I think this pick is so easy. 79% of the money and the public is all over the sweetheart, Colorado. They got 79% of the money on them. Give me the 21%. I'll take the Ducks minus 21 to beat Colorado at home. Bo Nix goes wild. They beat them by 35. And then for my super dog, I didn't like many super dogs this week. I didn't. So what I looked for is I looked for a team that stinks, that's given more than 15 points. And I found one. That Illinois team is tragic. That quarterback threw the ball directly to Penn State multiple times. Give me Florida Atlantic University plus 15.5 versus a terrible Illinois team. I don't like it. But I'll take it. Give me Florida Atlantic plus 15.5 over Illinois. Those are my picks.
Illinois' defense is all right. Their offense is atrocious.
Well, maybe the Illinois will win 9-6, and I'll pick up some points. You never know.
All right, so the first one I'm going to get out of the way, we've already talked about it because we previewed it. I'm taking Ole Miss +7 in Alabama. I just think they stay in the game. I think Lane Kiffin draws up enough stuff to keep them competitive, keep them within striking distance. Again, I'm not saying they win the game. I think they cover, though. I think it's a one-possession football game. Secondly, I think Tennessee rebounds this week. We didn't talk about them, earlier in the show. Did not look good at Florida. Looked like a completely different team than they did the first couple weeks. They go back home, Volunteer Stadium. I think they look a little bit better. -20.5 against a UTSA team that doesn't stop anybody. I think Joe Milton and company get back on track, put up a bunch of points. I don't think UTSA can keep up the pace. Last but not least, I'm going to agree with Cottrell. I think Texas goes to Baylor. Down year for Baylor, not a typical Baylor team. I think after somewhat of a scare against the Wyoming Cowboys, I think Sarkisian gets them a little bit back on track, a little bit more focused. They execute a little bit better at the beginning of the game. I think they pull away big time. It's only 14.5 though, so I will take Texas -14.5 at Baylor. I like that game a lot, actually. I think they get up big and they coast. Superdog kind of went with the same somewhat of the same theory that Gene did. I picked it. I found, I didn't really like any of the Superdogs. Nothing jumped out to me this week. I'm going to go with Charlotte, who can stop nobody, but they can score. They put up 25+ points in all three of their games, going to Florida. They're giving up 28.5. I'll take my chances and see what happens. I think Florida coming off a big win. I think they come out a little bit clunky at the beginning. A little hangover from the big Tennessee win. Maybe Charlotte keeps it close. Maybe even they go up like 14-7 after one, something like that. And then I hope they hang on for dear life, and maybe I sneak some Superdog points out at the end of it. So those are my 4 for the week.
I like it. Let's move on to the NFL. Now, before we go into any NFL pick'em or previews, I want to do overreactions, underreactions. Can we do that first, Cottrell? Is that okay?
Absolutely. I'm locked and loaded.
I'm ready. I don't know what these questions are. We don't know. There's no prep. This is no prep. I almost said no notes, but some dork would get mad if I said that. Tag him if you want. Go ahead.
I do want to preface it by saying there is one of them isn't overreaction, underreaction. It's a question. So let's just go ahead and get that one out of the way.
Sounds good.
Who's in more trouble, the Los Angeles Chargers or the Cincinnati Bengals?
The Bengals. I think the Chargers. I think the Bengals are in more trouble. I think Joe Burrow's calf injury is going to continue to linger. I think I agree with Jamar Chase. I told you he should have sat out week 1. He shouldn't have played. He played the first 2 games and they lost. And I think that calf injury is only getting worse. I think the Chargers can beat anybody on any given Sunday. I think they got a terrible football coach. And I think if you fire him if they lose this week, you fire him, they might wrap off 10 straight. I think you fire Brandon Staley if they lose this week. And I think you give the job over. I think you give the job over to the host, Kellen Moore. And I think Chargers wrap off 10 straight. I'm not kidding with you. I think the Chargers can beat anybody with a good football coach. I think the Cincinnati Bengals are in serious trouble. Just my personal opinion. I think Joe Burrow is a lot more hurt than we're hearing.
I mean, I think the one thing, from having the injury in the past, Gene's had it as well. I mean, you pop a calf, it's something that it becomes a nagging injury. It's never going to heal. Jamar Chase is right. He should have sat, let it fully heal, come back, 100%. He probably won't play 100% this year now. Like it's not something. It's just something that's never going to go away. He's going to keep tweaking it, and I think on top of that, I think you should look at Cincinnati. They're just not playing good football. No. I mean that they're not on the same page with the new offensive coordinator and the new play scheme. They just have not looked good at all for the talent they have on the offensive side of the ball. So I'm going to go with Gene on this one. I think Cincinnati, because I think that injury's not going away, and I think if the Chargers lose this week, I think it's the best thing that happens to them because I think Staley gets fired on Monday.
I'll say this. John Suggs, the Chargers DC needs to be fired first. The DC's the goddamn head coach. Brandon Staley's the defensive coach. The problem with the team is the defensive coordinator, which is the head coach.
In 8 out of the 10 major categories for defense, the Chargers rank 31st or 32nd, 8 of them.
Jordan makes a great point about the calf turning into the Achilles issue. I know, obviously, a lot of people have been talking about that because of Aaron Rodgers and what his situation was. I never want to wish that on anybody, but I don't know why the Bengals rushed out Joe Burrow for that one. It just didn't make sense to me in the moment, especially knowing that, I think they could have been competitive for 2 games without Joe Burrow. Obviously, you're not going to be great, but you got arguably the best receiving core in the league. If you're not the best, you got a top 3 receiving core. You rebuilt the O-line. You have Joe Mixon in the backfield. I wouldn't have, potentially mortgaged the entire season on Joe Burrow playing the first 2 games of the year, especially against divisional opponents.
Burrow ain't saying that, though.
I got to address this. John, who's the offense coordinator in Kansas City? Who's the offensive coordinator for the Los Angeles Rams? I don't care if Derek Ansley is the Chargers DC. I don't care. Brandon Staley's background is defense. He's a defensive head coach. They brought in Kellen Moore to run the offense, and Brandon Staley runs the defense. The problem in LA has always been Brandon Staley. Can someone help me understand who he has pictures of? I don't get it. There's certain players and coaches that get passes and everyone makes excuses for them. And I don't get it.
I bet you wish they hired Sean Payton now.
I was going to say, this isn't one of the questions here, but seeing what's happened with the Broncos so far, would they be in a better spot with Sean Payton right now, the Chargers?
Denver's 0-2, so you can look at the record and make that argument. Denver looks like a completely different football team.
But it's not even just record, though. It's why do they look great in the first half, and in the second half, they look like a team that forgot how to play football?
That doesn't say coaching. That, to me, says the quarterback is the issue, because the first play is a lot of scripted information, and then when teams are making adjustments, Russell Wilson is not. Russell Wilson looks terrible in the second half. Outside of that Hail Mary, they were awful.
I agree that could be your perspective, but also I could be looking at it like, if you're not coaching on script, what can you do? Obviously, you know what the tendencies are going to be in that first half, your first 10, 15, whatever, 20 plays are going to be. But, once you get off
script. I'll say it right now. Russell Wilson shot. He's done. He's shot. He's finished. He's done. He won't be in the league next year.
Okay. Well, that wasn't one of the questions. So we're going to get back on script here. The Dallas Cowboys are the best team in football.
Overreaction. They went against a New York Giants team that looked absolutely putrid in the first half versus the Arizona Cardinals and almost got beat by Joshua Dobbs and a team that's actively trying to lose. And then they went against Zach Wilson, who the Jets have no interest in allowing to run an offense. I'll let the kid fail. Drop back and throw the football. I don't care if he throws 7 picks. Let the kid fail. They're running a vanilla brand offense, and I don't know if I should blame that on Zach Wilson or Nathaniel Hackett, but regardless, it's an overreaction. I'm not saying the Dallas Cowboys aren't great, because they do look great, but they do this every friggin' September. They go 3-0, they're going to the Super Bowl, and then December hits, and all of a sudden they forget how to play football. It's an overreaction. And then they're going to play Arizona this week, so it's only going to get worse. They're going to destroy Arizona this week, and then you're going to hear, oh, my God, the Cowboys, they have this plus 85 in their for the points for and against. I guarantee it. Watch, you'll see. Overreaction.
Gene said it all. I don't have to answer it.
Overreaction so far as well. I do think level of competition, who you've played so far. And I think it's also, about how you look. That first game against the Giants, Dak Prescott didn't really have to do too much on offense. That's not his fault. But, Brandon Cooks is out. And I don't think that Cowboys offense really showed you any time where they were stressing. Like, let me see Dak Prescott put together a 2-minute drive or something like that, when there is some pressure, on him, and he's not turning the ball over, things like that. So, and he should have had a pick to Sauce in that Cowboys Jets game that Sauce just absolutely dropped. That could possibly change the whole dynamic of that game, because the Cowboys then went on to score, and that game got progressively worse throughout. So I want to see can Dak Prescott really stay away from the injury bug? Not injury, turnover bug.
I will state the same question that I asked to every Dallas Cowboys fan that I've yet to get a good answer for. Tell me why, or show me something that leads you to believe that man is capable to go into the playoffs and carry a team for 4 straight games and win 4 straight games, win a Super Bowl. I've yet to get a good answer from any diehard Dallas Cowboys fan. And the reason is you can't give one. Dak is who he is. You can't surround that man with a better offense and the talent that he has to watch what he's done year after year after year. Just like Gene said, come December, he's going to throw a clunker in there. They're going to get in the playoffs, and he's going to look like an idiot. He's going to do something stupid. Does it every year. And until he has a year where he doesn't do it and the Cowboys actually make a serious run, my opinion and what I see is not going to change.
All right, John, you are spot on. You want to talk about the Eagles' struggles? I got you here. Are the Eagles in trouble without Steichen calling their plays?
Can I go first again?
That's between you two resident Eagles fans.
They're not in trouble. And I'll tell you what I said to you in April and what I said to you in May. The Eagles' first 5-6 weeks of the season line up perfectly for them because it's growing pains with a new offensive coordinator. And I'll tell you one thing. Everyone gives a lot of crap to Brian Johnson for the play calling, as they should, for the first 5 quarters of the NFL season. But not one person is talking about how he made an incredible adjustment to Brian Flores' nickel AA rushed cover 0 defense and ran the ball down Minnesota's throat with DeAndre Swift. Like, don't tell me about what they did when they came back. I don't blame him for a monsoon and Bill Belichick. I don't blame him for the first quarter because he adjusted. He adjusted well. I think Shane Steichen's a better coach than Brian Johnson. I don't think that's a question. But can we give the guy time to let his feet get underneath him? It's a first-time play caller here. And I think that he made a great adjustment on Thursday Night Football versus Minnesota that no one wants to talk about. I'll tell you that, and I hope, is there another Eagles question or can I continue?
Nope.
Okay,
no other Eagles questions.
I'll tell you the thing you need to be talking about. The thing that drives me friggin' nuts, and everyone wants to sweep it under the rug. It's competitive. There's been 2 games out of the last 5 that the Philadelphia Eagles have played in which A.J. Brown has lost his shit on the sideline because he's not getting the ball enough in games that they're winning. Are you... Hello? You play to win the game. It's working. They're running the football to win. And it makes me believe the A.J. Brown comments after the Super Bowl where he's like, if I would trade all my stats in for a win in the Super Bowl, to make me believe that's bullshit. Because I don't like seeing that. Listen, I don't care if I go 4 for 4 in a softball game or I go 0 for 4. If we win the softball game, we win the softball game. I know we're not talking about softball. We're talking about football. But the truth is, you play to win the game. He got his money. He got $25 million a year to play wide receiver. Now win. We all know you can do it, AJ. That's the issue. Not the issue I have has nothing to do with Brian Johnson. It has to do with A.J. Brown. And then they pandered to him. That made me even more sick. He got in an argument on the sideline. The first play off of the sideline was a throw to A.J. Brown, and they got him behind the sticks immediately.
What was the original question?
Brian Johnson, sorry.
Yeah. The Eagles in trouble. The Eagles are in trouble without Shane Steichen calling plays.
It's no reaction. Gene, actually hit all the good points on this too. The schedule allows them to do this. I also think it's a lot of they don't want to show certain things right now either, and they don't have to. You saw, like Gene said, they made the adjustment against Minnesota, and they were like, all right, we're just going to run the ball to death. And then when you go to stop it, we're going to leak either AJ or Devonta behind you, and we're going to score. And that's what they did. It's kind of if it's not broke, don't fix it type thing. And it's also he's got to feel his way through it too. Like Gene said, it's the first time he's ever called plays. There's going to be growing pains, and the schedule sets up well for that. And also, I think you're starting to see flashes of it, though. I mean, I would say it was a little bit vanilla in the New England game, but again, it was the first week for a lot of the guys playing because nobody played in the preseason. And then on top of that, the weather wasn't great. And then against Minnesota, you saw flashes of it. They started taking shots a little bit, and they're mixing in the play action game. And I mean, he's going to find his way. He's going to find his way, and he's got enough leadership on that offense. And you factor in Sirianni supporting him as well. I think by the middle of the season, I think the offense is going to look very similar to what it did last year, and they're going to be humming along. And on top of everything else, they're 2-0. I mean, it's kind of what Gene said. I don't know what we're really bitching about here.
Justin, see, stop that. So he just said Justin Jefferson's not a diva. You must not have watched Thursday Night Football. That was diva behavior. I love Justin Jefferson. You want me to give you top 10 receivers that aren't divas? I'll give you a few. Devontae Adams is not a diva. Cooper Kupp is not a diva. They're not divas. Devontae Smith is not a diva. I'll give you top 10 receivers.
I don't think Jed is either. That's the second time in a row they've come to Philly and he's made a mistake, and he's the first person to go over and tell the coaching staff or Kirk Cousins and whoever and be like, that was my fault. Like when he fumbled the ball, he was like, that's on me. Like, and then last year, if you watch the quarterback show on Netflix, he ran the wrong route and Kirk Cousins threw that pick to Darius Slay, and he went right up to Kirk on the sideline. He said, it's me. So I ran the wrong route. He's like, that's my fault. I don't think Jed is a diva at all. Listen, I'm starting to get into a pattern of agreeing with Gene too much, but he's not wrong about AJ Brown. This isn't the first, and it's not the first time it's happened. And
he did it in the Giants playoff game.
Yeah.
They won 38-3. Like, What else do you want in those football games? And in the Giants playoff game, he's not playing for any stipulations in his contract. There's no clause in your contract that needs you to get the ball in the playoffs. Like, I don't
understand. Same thing in that game too, though. As soon as he did, they took that shot in the end zone right after that too. It didn't matter because they were up by so many, and then they pulled him and he got pissed about that.
So, next question here. Kirk Cousins won't finish the season in Minnesota.
God, Charlie.
I'm going to agree with that, and I think they're at the point where I don't think Minnesota is going to re-sign him, and they started out 0-2. I think it's a funny thing. I don't know who wants who to lose the game more this weekend between the Chargers and the Vikings, because I think there's just conflicting things on both sides. I think if you're a Chargers fan, you probably want them to lose because I do think Staley gets fired on Monday if they do. And if the Vikings lose, then I think maybe they really start get aggressive and trying to get Cousins out of there. I've heard the Jets a lot. I don't know. I think he makes them better. He's obviously not going to put them on the level where they would have been with Aaron Rodgers. But I think if the Jets can get them.
If they lose Sunday, Shally, if they lose Sunday and you're the Jets, do you give a 3rd round draft pick for Kirk Cousins right now?
I will say this.
Yes.
I would say yes, because I'll say this. Because if not, I think you hit on the big point earlier for me with Zach. If you really want to see what he is or what you have or what you don't have, you have to let the kid go out and play. Like you said, if you're gonna run this vanilla scheme and try to protect them and do this and that, you're not going to win any football games, and then you're pretty much giving up on the season. Then, like I don't think anybody can look at the Jets unobjectionably and say if they run that offense and continue to play the way they play, that they're a playoff team, let alone any kind of contender.
Yeah.
I think if you get Kirk Cousins in there, and he plays like Kirk Cousins, I think you're at least signaling to the team that you're trying and you're not giving up on the season, and you still have playoff aspirations. And he's a free agent at the end of the year, so there's not going to be any kind of drama. Aaron Rodgers is going to be the quarterback of the team next year.
I'm shocked they haven't brought in a quarterback. I'm just shocked.
I just think at this point, it's like it has to be ego. Like hey, we've given Zach Wilson all this confidence this offseason. We've seen his improvement. We're going to keep sticking with him. Like, I
Jameis
just
Winston's
don't
another good
know.
answer. Jameis Winston's another good answer.
But to Gene's point, they're not treating him that way. They're
I
not treating him
know.
as the kid that learned a ton from Aaron Rodgers
Right.
that we all watched on Hard Knocks, and the player that you see Robert Saleh talking or Aaron Rodgers or whoever being like he's gotten so much better and he's matured and he's this and this. They're not treating him as that player. They're treating him as the kid that they think is going to throw the game away, and they're doing everything in their power to protect him and keep him in safe passes, and it's not working. You can't win an NFL game that way. Defenses are too good. You got to cut him loose. You either got to cut him loose and be like, we messed up. We picked the wrong kid. We got Aaron Rodgers, and we'll plan for the future after Aaron. Or, I don't think the Saints trained Jameis. So, I don't think that is an option. Unless they overpay for him. If you call New Orleans, hey, we'll give you a second round pick for him. I think you have to trade him, but I don't think they're going to do that.
Yeah, but I'm saying like Kirk Cousins, Jameis Winston, Carson Wentz, freaking, I don't care. Matt Ryan, get him out of the goddamn booth. But
I'm with you on Cousins, and if they call an offer for a third, I think you have to trade him.
Yeah,
I literally accept. I'd fax the paperwork and say, hey, send that right on over, because in reality, Minnesota can get in that rebuild mode. If without Kirk Cousins, if they can get in the sweepstakes for you land Caleb Williams, and I'm saying this now, I've said it on our pregame shows, I think Quinn Ewers is going to be the second best quarterback in this class. If you get in the sweepstakes for one of those guys, this quarterback class this year is absolutely loaded. So
you got Quinn Ewers, Drake May, Caleb Williams. You got a ton of them.
If Shedeur wants to come out, like I think Shedeur has shown me that he can be, an NFL caliber quarterback. I think if he keeps raising the stock, I don't know how you can stay, but
Dion
Drake May.
Drake May. You're gonna have good kids in the second and third round. Like you're gonna have kids like JJ and like that fall down there. It's a deep class. And if you can pair Caleb or one of those kids with Justin Jefferson, your rebuild time really isn't that long. So
Gardner Minshew's another one I would go out and get. Fitzmagic. There's a lot of them.
Problem with
Minshew's starting.
Yeah.
Is he starting this week? Anthony Richardson?
He hasn't cleared protocol yet.
Not going to clear.
Him and Ryan Kelly are still in the protocol.
Okay.
I don't see a better option than Cousins if you don't have to overpay for him. You could say Carson and something like that. I don't know.
I know we gotta.
Carson market is not ideal to me.
I got just a few more here. Okay. Next one being the LA Rams will make the playoffs.
Fiction. Overreaction. I will say this, though. I love Puka Nacua, man. I remember watching him at BYU and him going nuts. Here's one thing I'll tell people to look out for. He's always on the injured list. That guy has got an ankle injury every day of the week. I've never seen anybody like it. Follow his BYU career. Love him, though. Man, he's got 35 targets in 2 weeks. Wow.
That's obviously going to go down when Cooper gets activated. But, that being said, he's carried the load for them. He's one of the reasons they're 1-1 and not 0-2, which a lot of us, I would think probably predicted they would be. They traded Cam Akers today to Minnesota. They got him out of there. I don't know what the hell's going on with that situation 2 years in a row. So it's going to be the Kyron Williams show now there. I don't think they made the playoffs, though. I think Seattle kind of looks like they kind of got back on track.
Yep.
San Francisco looks great.
Yep.
I don't see
making the playoffs in that division.
Yeah, no, I just don't see anybody else comes out of the West.
Okay. Next one here. The Chiefs will continue to not look the same without Eric Bieniemy.
Go ahead, Charlie.
I'm going to say overreaction. I'm going to say that I'm going to jump back to a point that G made when we were talking about Staley. Eric Bieniemy was the OC there for a while, but Andy Reid called a lot of plays, and Andy Reid kind of had final say. I think you throw the first week out, your best offensive weapon wasn't on the field. He's still not 100%. New offensive coordinator, again, we just talked about it with Johnson and Cincinnati's, Joe Burrow's going through the same thing. It takes a couple weeks to get on the same page and and getting the flow, getting the mindset the same way, where you're going to call plays and so forth and so on. They have Patrick Mahomes. I think, by the middle of the year, I think Kansas City will look just fine. Offensively, anyway.
I think it's not an overreaction. And I have a ridiculous, bold prediction that everyone's going to disagree with. Give me the Bears outright at Kansas City this week.
Jesus.
I'll take the Bears outright. I think Kansas City struggles continue for 5-6 weeks into the season. I think they'll eventually get it on track. I don't think it's going to be overreaction right now. I think that Kansas City offense looks terrible. They were right for the picking last week. If I don't know if you guys watched that Jacksonville versus Kansas City game, Trevor Lawrence had 5 touchdown passes where receivers dropped the ball in the back of the end zone or couldn't get their 2 feet down. 5 times it happened. It was, I also don't understand why he loves the back of the end zone so much. Like he's like the quarterback that throws the ball to the seams of the field as much as humanly possible. But they had 5 touchdown passes that just couldn't land in the red zone. It was insane.
The one Zay Jones one was super unfortunate, and of course the Calvin Ridley one back the end. Yeah, they're within inches of being 2-0.
Yeah.
But I think that one's not an overreaction for what it's worth. I think, again, they got Patrick Mahomes, so the offense will eventually turn it around. But I do think they will continue to struggle. And I do think they are missing Bieniemy right now.
I'm waiting for Justin Ross to take over as a top receiver on that team because those receivers stink. Rashee Rice and Justin Ross are that team's future.
Yep.
Just letting you know.
All right, last one here. Tua will win MVP this year.
Overreaction. Let me see him make it through half the friggin' season. Let me see him make it through a very good pass rush for a couple weeks. It's an overreaction. I actually don't think their offense looked that great versus New England. If I'm being completely honest with you, New England should have won that football game. They fumbled the football at the 20-yard line on a big pass, and that was a first down. What the hell? What happened with that Cole Strange play? My mind was blown. They gave him the first down and they overruled it. That was one of the craziest things. I've never seen a play overruled in which I still watched the play. And I'm like, he landed past the marker. Did anybody else watch that? Am I like out of my mind?
I was confused. They changed it. I do think if they would have called him short on the field,
they wouldn't have overturned it. I agree.
I would have been like, okay, they didn't overturn it. I thought he still made it, but it makes sense they didn't overturn it because it was so close. But for them to say that he made it on the field and then, go to replay and say he didn't make it, I don't know how that happened. But, of course, Dempsey here, real resident Dolphins fan, says he was short. That's like Bill still saying that JT was short.
He was.
I will say this. It's been very quiet, but Justin Ross has moved all the way up to 4th on the Chiefs depth chart. Look out. I'm telling you, look out. The kid's going to be really good. That's the last one.
That's it.
Let's talk about some things that happened this past week. First and foremost, let's talk about the serious issues first. Number one, I don't ever think I was more physically and mentally hurt over the injury that happened on Monday Night Football. I don't care who you like. I don't care who you hate. I don't care who your team is. Nick Chubb is an awesome running back person. The guy's never done anything wrong. He's the last of a dying breed as far as that hard-nosed running back. And to watch that injury and to hear the reports about arteries and being issues there, I'm just praying that he can get back onto a football field ever. I really mean that. Yeah, that was sickening, dude. That was really sickening. And it bothered me. It physically bothered me. I don't care who you wanted to win the football game, who you're playing in fantasy football. I don't care what the situation was. That injury really hit me. So that was hard, disturbing. So
No, absolutely. And I think the one thing is that the original angle, like just watching the replay from like what you saw with the broadcast, I know we were talking about it in our group message, and it was like, well, I saw his leg, fly up right away. Like at best case scenario, really bad hyperextension. But then you saw the other angle where, you see the foot planted and all of that. So like you knew right away it was going to be some sort of compound knee injury. It's going to be multiple ligaments, things like that. So just very unfortunate. I made a reel about it, but I want to just say that even with me being a Browns fan, I don't think that Minka hit was dirty. I think you got a running back like Nick Chubb running like that. He's a tough guy to take down, and I get it. The helmet went right to the knee. That's how you got to take down those big guys that could potentially run you over. You go high, you're going to end up flat on your back. So don't think the hit was dirty. I just think it was a very unfortunate play.
Yeah, I mean, Minka's not a guy that's known to do anything dirty either. He's not that type of player. I agree with Cottrell. When you first saw it, I mean, you kind of see it go backwards, but like you said, it kind of popped up. It didn't look like it got caught. And that's always something you look for because then, your foot kind of gets caught and the body weight changes and your knee goes one way or the other. When you saw the slow-mo of it and you see it hyperextend and go backwards, then go to the side too, it's just devastating. I mean, it's, there's a lot of concern that maybe he damaged that artery that happened to Kizzy Melton. It's, and then even the same thing that happened to Teddy Bridgewater that they thought, might end his career. So, I mean, listen, he's one of, the absolute, best players, best running backs in the league. You hope, and from everything you ever hear about him, he's a great guy, great teammate. You just hope he gets back on the field and he's himself again. I mean, I think that is the happy ending to all this, let alone anything else. So, speedy recovery. I think he's supposed to have surgery tomorrow, I heard. I'm hoping he comes through that. And when they get in there, maybe when we get good news and it's not as bad as they think. But I hope we see him play in 2024.
Second piece of serious news that we have to bring up is, and this is Dale Mooney lost his life at a Patriots-Dolphins game on Sunday Night Football over a fight in the stands. And from all the reports, it was heckling going back and forth between a Dolphins and a Patriots fan that led to a fight that led to 4 or 5 people throwing punches. And I'm not going to speculate on anything. The courts are going to handle everything there over what happened or who started it or what the situation was. More importantly, someone lost their life. And for anybody listening out there, I just want to remind you, you're going to a football game to be entertained. You're spending money to watch a football game. I want the Eagles to win just as much as the next person does. It affects me. I want them to win. I probably get too emotional over the Eagles winning, but it should never lead to that. I don't, and Danny said the same thing while I stopped going to football games. I don't go to football games, and I just don't want to be around that. I don't want to be a part of that. I don't want to, it's just not that I shy away from a fight or want to get in a fight or don't want to get in a fight. It's more of just like I don't want to be around that surrounding to where it leads to that. So let that be a lesson to anyone that goes to a game that life's more important, man. That man didn't get to go home to his family that night over arguing over whose team was going to win the football game. Like, I love sports, man, but that can't happen. Things like that happen all over. There's fights that happen every week at every different stadium. This one, unfortunately, led to someone losing their life. I'm hoping that anybody that's listening to this can just think twice before being involved in a situation like that. And, my prayers out to that family and to both families. And I hate saying this, and this might sound bad, but my prayers are out to the family of the man who lost his life. And my prayers are out to the other family of the guy that's going to go to jail for getting into a fist fight at a football game. He went to a football game to watch his football team play, and he got in a fight with somebody. He's going to go to jail, deservingly so. But a lot of families and a lot of lives are affected over a football game in which players are getting paid millions of dollars to play on a field, and you're fighting over who you want to win the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's tragic beyond belief. I think you hit on the main things. I mean, at the end of the day, you're watching a sport, and I hate to say it, I know Philly gets a bad rap for it, but this happens in every stadium every week. It's a lot of it, usually has to do with, paired along with, consumption of alcohol and a long day before you go into the stadium. But at the end of the day, man, like, and I don't mean to say this in a bad way, but like, you're not changing the outcome of anything. You're not, you don't affect what happens on the field. And I hate to say this too, that the guys on the field don't care. They're not paying attention. Like, they're out there playing a football game, trying to win. It's not that deep. It's just not. I mean, I'm a diehard fan as anybody, but it's a football game, and like Gene said, I mean, there's a guy now that it didn't make it home from that game, and there's another guy that his life is going to be affected moving forward tremendously based upon what happened at that football game. And it's just not worth it. It's just not. Go root on your team, and I mean, if the opposing team is there, that's great, man. I mean, and trust me, I've been in the stadiums where it's happened before. I've been in a stadium for Michigan, Ohio State. I've watched Eagles games when they play the Cowboys and play the Giants, and it's rampant, man. I mean, it's really, like Gene said, it's very easy to get wrapped up in very quickly, especially if you've had a couple drinks. It's just not worth it, man. Especially if you have a family at home and actually like your day off with, you're down there with your guy friends or whatever. They'll just think twice about it. The last thing anybody wants to do is call your wife and tell your wife or tell your son or daughter that you're not coming home because you got in a fight at a football game and something really bad happened. Yep. It's just not. It's just not worth it.
Agree 100%. And I think the one other thing too is that the report came out that he was there with his son. The guy who lost his life was there with his son. So that's going to be something obviously that kid is going to have to live with for the rest of his life. Something, watching the team that, that's something that him and his dad bonding over. But now, most times when you watch your team now, that's going to be the one thing that's going to consistently be in the back of your mind. So definitely want to give prayers out to both families involved in this one. Absolutely senseless. And, just gotta find a way to take this out of those stadiums.
I agree 100%. All right, let's get into some previews for this week. We got 3 games to go over, and then we'll get into our pick 'em. Preview games are the Chargers at the Vikings. We kind of previewed this a little bit already. It's the only reason we're previewing is it's 2 0-2 teams that in which you could see Kirk Cousins moved. You could see Brandon Staley fired. I am going to get in another fight with Shally, and I know it, and I know it, and I know it. This is the second straight week, and listen, I am not saying the issues with the Los Angeles Chargers lay on the back of Justin Herbert. They do not. They lay on Brandon Staley. Brandon Staley is the issue. I'm going to ask the same question. It's 24-20. It's 24-21. The Chargers have the ball with an opportunity to win the football game. They drive down, couple good plays, and they get stalled out. And they lose the football game inevitably in overtime. Justin Herbert did not complete the passes that need to be completed in order to win the football game. Shally, is Justin Herbert not clutch?
I mean,
the sigh.
I don't know how we go, like how you openly go from it's all on Staley or it's the defense this, but the conversation always ends up with us talking about Justin Herbert.
We started with Brandon Staley. That was the 9% of conversation. I'm asking a question. Here's the problem, right? If the Philadelphia Eagles would have lost that football game and Jalen Hurts had the ball in his hand at the end of the game, Philadelphia fans would be asking the same question. If the Dallas Cowboys lost a football game in which they went back and forth and the defense didn't hold up and Dak Prescott didn't score a touchdown, Dak Prescott would be asked the same question. I don't understand what the love affair with Justin Herbert is, and I don't. And just my opinion, he stalled out in regulation and had the quickest 3-and-out ever in overtime. I don't know why Justin Herbert is above criticism. I don't get it. Where
says no.
He's above criticism, bro. Every time the Chargers lose, it's Staley, it's the defense, it's everybody else but Justin Herbert.
But you literally just said it's Staley and the defense. Like, you're talking about if they lose Sunday, he should be fired. You're not talking about trading Justin Herbert after Sunday.
No, you're definitely he's a top 10 quarterback.
Why can't it just be that?
Because I don't think the kid's clutch. And I think when the moment gets big, Justin Herbert gets small. I really believe that. I think that's a bad character trait to have as an elite quarterback.
Gene, I think your argument has some credence. The one thing that I will give slight pushback, I'm like somewhere in the middle between you guys. Like, I feel like Bill doesn't want to give Herbert any blame. Gene quietly wants to give Herbert more blame than
I don't.
I'm just somewhere in the middle. And I say that because you could talk about overtime, because yes, he absolutely looked bad, quick 3 and out in overtime. Chargers should have been put in a position to win that football game. But let's also talk about that same game. They were down 24-21. He led the team down the field to get in field goal position and forced the game to overtime. Now, you're not getting brownie points for just going to overtime, but I'm just saying that you got to tell the full story there. You got to give him props, but then take him away.
Joseph Jeffers is spot on. Is Herbert the modern day Romo?
It's a million times better than Romo.
I think that this game will be fun, and I've never watched a football game in which I'm rooting for both teams to lose because I want to see what happens. Why is Godfrey says I'm done? I don't know why he's done. Can you tell me why you're done? He's
probably upset about the Herbert.
What?
He's probably upset about the Herbert comment being Romo.
Oh, okay.
That'd be my guess.
But I want to understand. I want to watch both teams lose because I want Brandon Staley to get fired because I feel like that Justin Herbert has a different head coach. Things could be different. But I also want to see the Vikings lose because I predicted them to be in the cellar in the NFC North, and I want to see Kirk Cousins get traded to the Jets. I think that would make the team better. So, I want both teams to lose. So I don't know who to pick in this one. My gut says the Chargers are the better football team and they should win the game. My brain says that anything I look at sports analytically, betting wise, the Vikings are the play here as far as where the money's at. So I wouldn't touch this game with a 10-foot pole. I guess because we're predicting it, give me Chargers 24, Vikings 23.
I'm taking the Vikings in this one, and that's because we've talked about it, for the past 2 weeks here. We brought up the Chargers, talk about Herbert, being clutch, not being clutch, all you want to. Chargers defense has looked absolutely awful. I think Justin Jefferson is going to have a field day. I think this may be a game where Justin Jefferson goes off for 160 yards and has a touchdown, maybe 2. Jordan Addison has looked good so far. His first couple games of the season as well. So I think that Minnesota offense will be able to move the ball up and down the field against that Chargers team. And, I think this will be a game that Chargers fans are going to hate, but they're also going to love because I'm with you guys. I think Brandon Staley will no longer be the coach of this team come Monday because they are going to lose this game.
I unfortunately think he's not going to get fired because I think the Chargers are going to win. I think he's well aware of, kind of the soldiers pounding at the gate type thing. And he knows what's coming if they lose. I think he comes with a different defensive game plan. I think Jettis probably still has a good game. I think try to slow down Madison, who hasn't looked great anyway. I doubt Cam Akers plays. Maybe he does. I don't know. But I think the Chargers go in there and squeak one out, and then we prolong the firing of Brandon Staley. I think it probably happens in week 5 or 6, but I think he gets through this weekend.
I think Jory made a great point as well. She said that's why he got snippy at the reporter. I think Brandon Staley is fully aware of how hot his seat is.
He knows.
You talk about, and I will say, I don't want to give him benefit of the doubt. It was a bad question. Do you think the team still has some carryover from the loss last year? I do think that's a bad question. But I think there's other ways you can answer. Like, I think that really got under his skin because, deep down he knows his seat is hot as hell.
Yeah, he knows in his gut what the real situation is here. So they go out and lay a dud or they don't win. I don't, I guess they probably let him back on the plane, but he probably gets fired as soon as he gets off it in Los Angeles.
This comment I need to address. Herbert's coaches cost him the opportunity to participate in clutch opportunities. What the hell are you talking about? He's had 2 in a row, 3 in a row, his last 3 games. I don't agree with that at all. I think Kellen Moore is the Chargers' next head coach in waiting. I think that they fire Brandon Staley mid-season and they give Kellen Moore the interim job, and depending how he does with it, he could be the coach next year. But I don't agree. Herbert's going nowhere. I don't think Herbert's the question. We're talking about Brandon Staley.
No, I mean, he's signed. He's not going anywhere.
At this point, I don't think teams care about that. They want to win. You see coaches get fired all the time. I understand you just signed them. Owners are billionaires. If getting rid of him means that the Chargers have an opportunity to potentially win a Super Bowl this year, they're going to do it quick, fast, and in a hurry.
Yep.
Okay. So I have the Vikings or Chargers. I don't remember who I have. I don't care. I want both teams to lose. Next game, the 2-0 Washington Commanders host the 1-1 Buffalo Bills. Buffalo looked much better this past week versus a hapless Raiders team. The Commanders made a huge comeback versus Broncos country last ride. The Denver Broncos almost blew it with that Hail Mary, that fail Mary. Knocked the ball down. And by the way, probably going to be you got to be kidding me. How in the world do you not call that PI in the end zone for the Broncos? That is awful. That 100% was a PI. He grabbed the guy's head and turned it around.
It was definitely awful. I think the one thing that kind of gets, shoved aside here, Russell Wilson made the wrong read. It was a mesh route. Jerry Jeudy got open at the top of the screen. I don't know.
100% right.
I don't know how Russ missed that. He threw it to Cortland Sutton, covered there. It was PI. Don't get me wrong. But in my mind, I watched that and I said, this is on Russ. You throw to the wide open guy that got open off of the schematic play that you ran, and you're not even there. So
you're right.
It was a missed call, but I'm still blaming Russ.
Oh, well, trust me, I got more of them. There's like 3 of them at the end. But okay, so I think that the Washington Commanders are absolute fool's gold, but I will give Sam Howell and Eric Bieniemy all the credit in the world. By the way, I'm so sick. I seen a picture today where they had a picture of the Commanders' defensive line and like, when is this defensive line going to get a nickname? What are we going to call this group? They gave up 33 points to Denver. Give credit to Eric Bieniemy and Sam Howell. Why is everybody in the world trying to find reasons to take credit away from Eric Bieniemy? I don't know who that man killed. It's unbelievable. They scored 35 points at Denver, which is unheard of, by the way. That doesn't happen. And we're talking about the Washington Commanders defensive line. I do, however, think the Commanders defensive line will give Josh Allen fits because Josh Allen holds on to the ball, and that's a strong, aggressive group. However, I think Buffalo wins this one. I think they win this one rather easily. I do think you see bad Josh, though. I think you'll see a couple turnovers by Josh Allen. I got the Bills in this one. I think they cover the spread. But don't be surprised if Josh Allen keeps Washington in the football game.
I think Josh probably makes one of those bonehead throws somewhere. It's probably early, though. I think if you're a Buffalo fan, I think you're encouraged last week of not only how they ran the ball, they got the running backs involved early in the passing game as well. Gabe Davis had a big game. They put up 38 last week, and that was pretty much with Diggs not doing anything. So they really spread the ball around. Offense looked a lot better. I mean, I know it's the Raiders, but, that being said, the game plan looked different. And it had, it looked more encouraging. Like, was it just drop back, see if we can throw the ball to Diggs 60 yards down the field, and then if not, Allen either runs or checks the ball down, which is kind of what it's been the last year and a half or so. So, looked like they had a game plan last week. They followed it. I agree with Gene. I think Washington is I never want to say when he wins the game by luck, but I think fool's gold is a very good description for Washington. So I think Buffalo wins, and I think they cover as well.
You want to talk about fool's gold? I'm going to go on the other side. I think Buffalo's fool's gold. I think Buffalo looked good against a Raiders team that we all didn't think to be that good this year. And you talk about Josh Allen rebounding, but let's be honest here. Who on that Raiders team was really giving you worries? Devontae Adams looked good while he was playing. He got knocked out with a concussion, and so at that point, who scares you on that Raiders offense? And then defensively, yes, they do have Max Crosby. So definitely want to give credit to the Bills O-line keeping him in check. But I think this week when you have those four monsters on that defensive line going after Josh Allen, I think it will make him uncomfortable, and you are going to see those mistakes. Kyle Edwards said it best. Bad Josh is always ready to make an appearance. I think he makes that appearance this week. I think they're going to be breathing down his neck, and he's going to force some throws in some bad areas, and Washington's going to capitalize and take over the ball. So I think the rushing attack that you saw last week from Buffalo, I don't think that's going to be the case again. I don't think that's something that's going to be sustainable for them moving forward. I like Washington to steal the game here. I think this is one of those ugly games. I could easily see it being 24-21, something like that. I think Josh Allen has the ball late, and he throws a turnover, and Washington gets to sit on the ball.
I love it. I love the bold prediction. I will say this. It was very refreshing to see the Buffalo Bills run the ball 33 times to non-Josh Allen running backs. Like Josh Allen ran the ball a couple of times. I'm deleting those. Started 32 times. Or actually, let's be honest. It was 30 times because the Kyle Allen Neals don't count either. But they ran the ball 30 times. I'm proud of Buffalo. Okay,
it's a step in the right direction for them. I think you have it back in James Cook that I think is capable of keeping defenses honest if you give them enough opportunities, and that's what they have to do. I think somewhere along the way, somebody's got to speak some kind of sense into somebody's head and be like, if we can run the ball effectively, we don't have to throw it 55 times. Josh Allen doesn't have to run the ball 20 times. Like it's not rocket science.
Last game on the docket, Philadelphia Eagles travel to Tampa Bay. 2-2-0 teams. We're not doing it just to be homers here. 2-2-0 teams, Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as well. Listen, I got to give credit where credit is due. Go ahead, Control. I know you're ready. You're ready to give Baker some hate.
No, I wasn't ready to give him hate. I was going to just ask, can I go first, get it out the way? But
yes,
go ahead. Give Baker his roses. Go ahead.
No, I got to give him his roses, man. 2 football games, 2-1. Not been turning the ball over. I haven't seen bad Baker this year. Todd Bowles' defense looks really good. The Buccaneers are looking pretty good. Monday Night Football in their house. They'll be shooting the cannons off. Go first, Control.
Yeah, I mean, Baker definitely. I'm going to give Baker a lot of credit for week 2. Week 1, I know he got the win. He wasn't great by any means in that game. But I want to give him credit for week 2. I do think this is the game, though, where Baker gets put back to earth. You're going to have that Eagles defensive line getting after him, not like, Vikings defensive line wasn't getting after Baker. And even this past week with the Buccaneers going up against the Bears, they weren't getting after him either. I think, the Buccaneers had the luxury of Justin Fields turning the ball over twice in that game. I don't think Jalen Hurts is going to do that. I like Philly in this one, and I like Philly the roll. I think they ultimately get 2 turnovers from Baker, whether it be an interception and a fumble, 2 picks, 2 fumbles, however you want to go about it. I think they make Baker uncomfortable, and I think they roll in this one.
Yeah, Chow.
I think they win too. I think it's a close game, though. I think it's a competitive game. It's Monday night. And we've seen in the past how Baker, can kind of, summon up the big game Baker sometimes. And I think we get that, to some degree in this game. I do agree with Cottrell. He probably throws a pick somewhere, probably trying to get too aggressive on Slay or Bradbury, who is on track to play, it looks like. The only thing I think would worry me as an Eagles fan is, him and Mike Evans have not skipped a beat. I think a lot of people thought Mike Evans was going to regress this year with Brady not being there. He had another monster week last week. So, they're taking their shots downfield. Eagles have to be ready for that. Cottrell brought up the one point for me that I think is huge, though. I think Carter and all those guys up front are going to be in his face all night. Tampa Bay has not run the ball very well. I don't think that's going to change against the Eagles either. I think the Eagles defense gets enough stops and plays well enough in big areas of the game. And I think the Eagles offense, again, takes an incremental step forward and looks a little bit better than it did the week before. I like the Eagles to win. I think it's a good game. I think it's a competitive game. I don't want to say they roll by any means, but I think the Eagles get out of Tampa Bay 3-0.
I'm waiting for the Eagles to get past the killer bees and defensive coaches, man. You had Belichick, then you had Brian Flores, and now you have Todd Bowles. All of them are defensive minded, and they're very good at what they're doing. I'm interested to see what Todd Bowles schemes up for the Eagles offense this week. I do think the Eagles defense will be very well equipped to be able to slow down the Tampa Bay Bucs offense. Jalen Carter leads all defensive linemen in quarterback pressures. That's incredible. That's not rookies. That's all defensive linemen. The guy is an absolute animal, and he's only playing 43% of snaps right now. Imagine when this guy gets more of a lion's share of the snaps. He's just different. That defensive line's too much for that Bucs offensive line. They'll shut down the run game. I think Slay will really slow down Mike Evans, and I love what the Eagles will do this week. I think the Eagles win this football game, and it is a tough place to play, though. Playing Tampa Bay Monday Night Football is never easy, but I like the Eagles to win this football game. I got them winning 27-17. I don't think they'll score too many, but I think they'll do enough to win the football game. Let's get into Pick'em. Gentlemen, I give up. I would normally say I want to go last as usual, but Shally, pick the order, man, because I'm 1-5. This is so absurd to me. Guys, can I ask you a question? Am I allowed to do this for this week? And you're probably going to say no, and it's okay. If you say no, I'm prepared. But I want to give four. No. I want to give 4 games. And listen to me. No. I want to give 4 games because it can get me to 500 if I go 4-0.
No, we went over this last year. You pick 3. That's it.
Boo. Okay. I got to figure out which game I got to delete because I have 4.
What order did we do last week?
It was you, Cottrell, and then me.
All right, we're gonna let you go first. Maybe that'll get you out of your funk. Let you go first.
I'm still deciding what game to get rid of. All right. I can do it. I'll take it.
Cottrell goes second. I'll go last.
I'll take the Ravens -7.5 off my board. I had the Ravens -7.5. I don't know who's starting at quarterback, so I'll take that off my board. I think Minshew might start. I don't know. So I still like the Ravens -7.5 if we want to be honest.
Minshew is going to start. They already. I'm just saying if you want to keep it, based on that.
I want to keep it, but I feel like my other 3 plays are just a little stronger. But I want you to remember, I said Ravens -7.5.
Richardson is not going to play.
I actually feel like I'd feel better if Richardson was playing, but just my opinion.
I get it.
I'm going back to the well. I'm not learning my lesson. I'm going back to the well for a 3rd straight week and picking against a 2-0 team for a 3rd straight week. But I absolutely love this play. Give me the Detroit Lions -3.5 at home versus the Atlanta Falcons. Desmond Ridder stinks. In both wins, he looks terrible. I don't believe in this Atlanta team. They got to go on the road. Both games have been home so far. They're going to go play at Detroit. Detroit coming off a loss. Jared Goff has played great football. If we're being honest, he's probably played the best quarterback play out of anybody the first 2 weeks of the season. Give me the Detroit Lions -3.5 over the Atlanta Falcons. Now, second game, Cottrell might be enamored by this one. Give me the Cleveland Browns -3 at home versus the Tennessee Titans. I like the Browns in this football game. I think their defense will give Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry all they can handle. I think Deshaun Watson's hearing all the criticism this week, and I think he does what it takes to move that offense without Nick Chubb. I think the Browns bounce back after a Monday night loss. They come home and they get a big W over the Tennessee Titans. And then for my final play, you've heard it already, and I'm going to the well for a 3rd straight week. I think the press conferences matter. I think I have such belief in this kid, and he cost me $600 this past Sunday. That's how much I still like him. Give me the Chicago Bears plus 12.5 at Kansas City. I friggin' love this play. I will be betting the money line. I think the Bears go into Kansas City and pull the upset. I know you might think I'm nuts, but I like Chicago this week. I think you'll see free flow in Justin Fields this week. I think it's a competitive football game. And if the Chiefs win this game, I think they only win it by 3. Give me the Bears plus 12.5 at Kansas City. They're my 3 picks this week.
Okay, so you want to talk about going back to the well? I'm going back to the well. It failed me last week. I gave you 3 unders, the over hit in all 3 of them. I like some more unders this week. Not all unders, but just the first one here. Give me under 44 in the New York Giants at the San Francisco 49ers. The New York Giants don't have a semblance of any offense without Saquon Barkley. You're telling me Matt Breida is going to be able to move the ball downfield against that 49ers team that looks absolutely phenomenal right now? I don't know how the Giants are going to score more than 10 points in that game, if I'm being honest. I can easily see that game being 31-10. I think that's the closest that it gets to that 44 points. But I think the under is almost a lock this week, especially with them playing on the short week with no Barkley. Especially, high – roller coaster win, that come from behind win against the Arizona Cardinals. I just think you get a lot of drop off and that San Francisco team takes care of business. And that's an absolute blowout from start to finish. Second game, hate picking bad teams, but I for whatever reason, this is one that just stuck out to me. I'm taking the Jets plus 2.5 at home versus the New England Patriots. I don't know why. I really don't. Zach Wilson has not shown me anything to make me a believer in him. But I do think that Jets team will rely more on Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook. And I think they get that run game going. And I think they control the time of possession. I think the Jets defense will have Mac Jones struggling a bit in that game. And so I ultimately think the Jets win that one. I think it's going to be a lower scoring affair, 17-13, something like that. Very similar to the Jets-Pats or Jets-Bills Monday night opener. But I think the Jets pull out a win in that one. So I'll take the Jets plus 2.5. And then my third game, I'm 100% in agreement with Gene on it. I have the Lions minus 3.5 against that Atlanta Falcons team. I get it. The Falcons are 2-0 at this point. Bijan Robinson has looked good. I think Dan Campbell knows that, and he's going to try and find a way to take Bijan Robinson out of the equation in that game. I think he's going to try and make Desmond Ridder beat him with his arm. You saw last week Geno Smith had some success. I don't see Desmond Ridder having that same success against that Detroit Lions secondary. I think Aiden is going to be able to pin his ears back, and he's going to make Desmond uncomfortable. I like the Lions to win that one. I think they win by at least a touchdown. Love them covering that 3.5.
All right. So, I don't know when the last time this happened is, but I am also taking the Detroit Lions minus 3.5 at home for a lot of the reasons both these gentlemen already said. I like Detroit at home. I think Atlanta is finally up to play away from, the Mercedes-Benz Superdome. Atlanta is one of those teams that is night and day away from home. Always play tougher at home, even when they're not the best team. Not usually a good road team. They're going to Detroit coming off a loss, like these guys were talking about earlier. I think Dan Campbell and company get it done. I think Jared Goff has a big game as well. And I think David Montgomery, is kind of settling into the RB1 role there. Had a bunch of big plays the first 2 weeks. I think Gibbs, they're going to try to use, find a way to use him in a different way. I just like Detroit there a lot. I agree. I think they win by 7 or more points as well. I'll take them to cover the 3.5. Secondly, I'm going to go back to the well on this one too. It's kind of be the theme of pick 'em this week. I'm going Seattle minus 6 at home against Carolina. I think Bryce Young for little spurts has looked really good. I think the supporting cast around him isn't that great. The defense I don't think has played as well as we thought they were going to. Seattle looked a lot better last week. I think they just laid a dud week 1. And, they went to Detroit, beat Detroit. They go back home, Seattle home crowd. I think they win by at least 10 points in that game. I like Seattle minus 6 at home. And then last but not least, the game we already talked about, I think Buffalo goes to Washington and covers. I think too much offense for Washington. I don't think Sam Howell's going to have a great game against Buffalo's defense. I know we talked about Josh Allen a lot. But I think Josh Allen, for the most part, keeps them in check. I think they try to run the ball again, and I think if they can early, I think that's doomed for Washington. I think Buffalo will get it going again, spread the ball around, be more balanced. I like Buffalo, too much firepower. I like them to go into Washington and win.
Let's pick them. Hopefully I can improve on this terrible start. I could throw darts at a wall and be better than 1-5. That's sickening. I don't think that's ever happened to me ever before. Look, next week if I'm 1-8, I might not show up for the show. Let's get into You Gotta Be Kidding Me. Start us off, Cottrell.
All right, so mine this week, it's something that is just been really bothering me throughout the year, and that is the UFC scoring system. So this past weekend, it was a fight night card, but you had a championship fight. Valentina Shevchenko was rematching Alexa Grasso to ultimately try and get her flyweight championship back. Now, I thought the fight was very close. Me personally, I had it 3-2 for Valentina. But if you had it 3-2 for Alexa, the fourth round was really that swing round. And if you had that either way, I was perfectly fine with that. What I wasn't fine with, though, was the ultimate decision. It came out to be a split draw. And they showed the scorecards after the fight was completely over. And there were two judges that had Valentina winning the first round, the third round, and the fourth round. The most dominant round in that entire fight was round 3, and now it's Valentina's round.
Agreed.
There was a judge that scored the fight 10-8 in favor of Alexa Grasso in that fight. I just don't know how you can watch that and say that was the 10-8 round. It wasn't even the most dominant round in the entire fight. Nope. I didn't want Alexa Grasso to lose her belt because I have always said, we all say it on the show, to be the champion, you have to beat the champion. I don't think it was definitive. I gave it to Valentina on the scorecards, but I didn't think it was definitive. So I was okay with Grasso keeping her belt. But seeing that on the scorecards, it just doesn't make sense to me at all. And, clearly Dana's pissed about it because apparently the Nevada Athletic Commission, in terms of, their judges, they had to have a whole seminar about it already, about what 10-8 scoring really looks like and how to be more consistent there. If I'm Valentina, I'm 100%, pissed about that fight because I think she has a point, with it being them fighting on Mexican Independence Day. I think that played a huge part in it. And I think that judge knew if I, ultimately give this round, make it a 10-9 round, how it should be, the belt's probably switching hands here. So let me try and play a part in making sure that doesn't happen. And, I think Valentina got screwed there. I do think the fight was either way, but the way the fight got scored between rounds 1 through 4, you got to score that 5th round fairly. And if the belt changes hands there, so be it. Make them running back to see who that real winner is. But for me this week, the UFC and their awful scoring, not just that card, but so far throughout the year and their inconsistencies there.
Come on, you got to be kidding me.
That wasn't the only fight on that card that had a really weird scorecard. It's been a lot. So just to be clear, I don't disagree with you. I personally had Alexa Grasso winning the fight 3-2, but there's no way in a million years that you could ever score that last round a 10-8 for Alexa Grasso. The fight that kind of, I guess, threw me through a loop was, I don't know if you've seen it, the Fernando Padilla versus Kyle Nelson fight.
I missed it.
Which I thought was a very good fight. Total strikes were 83-73. Significant strikes were 82-72. Everything was almost identical throughout the whole fight. I mean, they were super close. I think Fernando Padilla 100% won the first round. He did on 2 judges' scorecards. I think Kyle Nelson 100% won the second round. He did on all 3 scorecards. And then the third round was kind of debatable, but all 3 judges scored Kyle Nelson to win that third round. The issue I didn't have with that fight was not who won the fight. Kyle Nelson probably should have won the fight, but a 30-27 score in a round that was 100% dominated. That first round was dominated by Fernando Padilla, and I think it was an absolute disgrace that score, that fight looked like as a blowout, and it wasn't. Every significant strike The head strikes were 43-42. The body strikes were 19-17. Like it was a joke how that fight got scored. So I agree with you. Bill?
I'm going to go with kind of a silly one this week.
Cool.
But at the same time, still kind of annoying. We've talked about, the NFL and the way they do things, in certain aspects of running the league and, how they don't necessarily have, the players' best interest in mind and all they care about is their money. So if anybody's watched the Kelsey special yet, Jason kind of let it slip that he wasn't given tickets for, his immediate family. He had to go out and purchase them and spend $50,000 of his own money. Now, Super Bowl ticket is one of the hardest tickets you can possibly get to any kind of event. Like it's not even close. I mean, it's a one-off special game every year. That being said, I think it's different than a situation where Jason Kelsey was trying to get 12 tickets and wanted them for free. He had to pay for his parents, who obviously you could have easily factored in, could have split with Travis because that's who he was playing. They were playing the Chiefs. To get his parents and his wife there, it cost them $50,000 to buy tickets because the NFL wouldn't give him tickets. Like that is just crazy to me. I think first and foremost, the players that are playing in this game should be able to have people there that matter to them, especially immediate family. Again, I don't think these guys should be able to bring in entourages of 20 people and get free tickets. But that being said, the fact that the starting center, a future Hall of Famer, one of the leaders of the team and one of the most, recognizable guys from the team, had to pay $50,000 for his wife and his parents to watch him play in the Super Bowl is ludicrous to me. The ticket policy has to get changed. It has to get changed. That's just nuts. So for me, NFL just, dropping the ball once again on something stupid. I'll go with them this week.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
I don't this is a tough one, but the NFL refs, and I listen, I'm gonna tell you something right now. Let me just first give credit to where credit is due to the NFL. There was obviously a meeting this offseason to call less flags. 100%. And that's what I want. I want there to be less flags in a football game. The flags are down like 27% year over year through 2 weeks, which I love that, right? I don't want to see zebras holding the game up for ticky-tack holding calls. It's not what we had this past week, though. There was 3 absolutely blatant. I mean, I don't know how you can't call them pass interference calls in football games this past week. The Denver Broncos had one with Cortland Sutton. The Cleveland Browns had one on the sideline. That was just absolutely egregious. Was that Amari Cooper that got absolutely destroyed on the sideline? Donovan Peoples-Jones? Yeah. It was so egregious and nothing got called. And these are on game-ending, game-clinching plays. You got to be better than that. You have to be better than that. And I don't want to go back to reviewing pass interference. That was annoying and it was terrible. Just make the obvious call when it's in front of you. To give them a compliment while still using them as my you got to be kidding me this week might be you got to be kidding me in its own right. But multiple PIs down the stretch that were not called. Even the Thursday night one with the Philadelphia Eagles, in which A.J. Brown was 100% interfered with on a touchdown pass. Just 3 very egregious PI calls that weren't called. And for that, this week, they're my you got to be kidding me.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
The one thing that I will say that I don't understand with the NFL is why can certain things get called in and they can fix it, and then other things they can't? Like, why can't you just make it a universal thing? Like when they call a catch on the field, they say it's a catch. The other coach doesn't necessarily need to challenge. They can be like, hey, New York called in. They said it was really a catch. We're going to just move the ball downfield. Like, I just don't understand why can't they do that with pass interference? Because I'm with you. It was annoying having coaches, challenge pass interference all game long, especially, ticky-tack calls, things like that, seeing it in slow motion and all that. But for the blatant ones, why can't New York just phone in and say, hey, you guys missed this one? If there's a face mask, hey, You guys missed this one. I just
I
don't
think
get it.
Godfrey makes a point, bro. All three of those PIs that were made, I'm not going to post it because of the curse, but all three of those PIs that were missed this past weekend were 1,000,000 times worse than what happened in the Super Bowl with James Bradbury. That's a very, very good point. So
It's true.
and that was called in the last play of the game in the Super Bowl. So that decided a Super Bowl game. But you don't want to decide a Monday Night Football game in week 2?
The Bill Belichick challenge was awesome. Me and Audie were watching the game, and that was absolutely hilarious. He was like waiting until the ref got right there. He was like, "No, I want to throw this flag in your face." Like,
it was so good.
And then he got it wrong. Like, he didn't even get the call reversed.
I will say this, even the Cole Strange replay, like, what was that? How do you overturn that? Like, there's just so many. And the question that I have, and I'm not trying to get too tinfoil hat here, is how much does Vegas have to play in these calls? I don't want to say that. I don't want to think that way. I had no money on the game. It really makes me believe that a phone call is being made from Vegas. Like, hey, we're going to not make that call. I don't know.
Well, then you had the Rams kick the meaningless field goal out of nowhere.
Bro, what was that about, man?
McVay said it because somebody blatantly asked him in the post game. They were like, you went from not covering to covering, again, I don't know how much of a tinfoil hat you want to put on. I think those guys are more aware than they lead on, but they're not going to talk about it.
Him saying I want to lead Matt Stafford to any unnecessary hit. Yeah. That's what he said. What?
Need the ball then.
Yeah.
Run the ball.
Yeah.
It's yeah. I would have loved to see, what the how much Vegas won on that game after that field goal was kicked versus what they were probably going to lose. Because I guarantee you went in their favor.
Just feels weird, right? Like, it feels weird.
Well, it happens too often, man. There's not enough consistency. That's the one thing. If you want to call it one way and everybody calls it that way, then okay, that's great. Then as a player and as a coaching staff, you know what it is. Then if you do this, it's going to get called. But then it becomes okay. Well, DPJ almost gets pretty much, for lack of a better term, gets tackled and pushed out of bounds before the ball gets there. They don't call that, but they're like, oh, it's like the last play, or like we don't want to decide the game by flag. Like,
if they said that ball was uncatchable, I would have took that more than them saying he didn't interfere, because that's what
even if you say uncatchable, though, I mean,
still a hold.
Still a hold, yeah.
Still a hold.
So,
yeah,
I don't.
That's what I mean. There's no consistency with it. No.
Like, if you called holding on that play and gave them a 5-yard penalty and a new set of downs and allowed them to try to see if they can score, and you didn't, that's less of deciding the game than not making the call. And I hate to be on like Cottrell's side on this on Monday Night Football. Like, I didn't care who won the game. I had no money on the game at all. I just watched the game as a regular football fan. And just like I'm sure a lot of you guys watched that weren't Eagles and Chiefs fans, being like, why did we ruin the Super Bowl on a holding call? One of the greatest Super Bowls that was ever played, if I'm being honest. That Super Bowl was incredible. Even as on the losing side, it was a great game.
Yeah, it was a good game.
Any final comments, gentlemen? I have one.
Got nothing. Excited about this slate of games this week for college football. And then I think we are back with NFL next week with a good group of games. So it's kicking in the gear of that time of year that I absolutely love.
You got that. You got baseball playoffs start next weekend. It's going to be and we got Ryder Cup. It's going to be interesting, but yeah,
got some fun stuff.
Next week is a good week. Football and baseball playoff. It's about as good as it gets for me.
All right. Well, I have one, and I know my family listens to the show, and this will be something a little bit personal. Monday, we said our final goodbyes to my cousin Keith, who passed away, and they had the ceremony at Delaware Valley Crematory Center. It's the exact same spot where they had my dad's, and it was the first time I was there since that. And my aunt gave a speech, and she had said, Keith, speaking to Keith's son, I know your father was like your best friend. He was your hero, and you guys did so much together, and it took everything in me. Like I did. The last thing I wanted to do was to make that service or that ceremony about me, and it wasn't. But it just brought back a lot of really, really painful memories. But I just wanted to give a final goodbye to my cousin Keith, and say a lot of prayers to the Adamson family. I love you guys all, Patty, Keith, Rabbit, Susan, Linda. There's too many to go into. Caitlin, and he was there to walk his daughter down the aisle for a week and a half before he passed away, and he legitimately gave his daughter away. He stayed, and he was sick, and he did what he wanted to do. He wanted to walk his daughter down the aisle before he passed. So I just wanted to wish a final goodbye to my cousin, and end the show on a little somber note, but that's what we got for you this week. Joseph Jeffers said, we can't believe you didn't use this for You Got to Be Kidding Me. The MLS Montreal contract terminated. I don't know what happened. Maybe Shally or Cottrell can fill me in.
I don't actually.
But maybe we'll talk about it next week. But thank you guys for tuning in to Wire2Wire Sports Podcast this week. It's been a fun episode, and we are signing out. Boom.